Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. My guest on the podcast today is Ian Dilks, aka Dilksy. Dilksy is a proud member of the Fire and Rescue Service, but before that, for his sins, he did a 24-year warm-up career in the military. Now, there is, of course, my words and not his. Dilksy's an amazing guy. I absolutely love this conversation, folks. I think you're going to see so many layers to Dilksy in this conversation that you perhaps have not seen in the public domain before. Now, the reason I say that is because you may not recognize the name, but you will recognize the man. Dilksy is one of the lead interrogators on SAS Who Dares Wins and has been doing the show since 2020. We go into so many directions today. I will put the caveat in there at the beginning that there is some strong language in this episode. So let's bracket that with our opinions, our thoughts, our voices, and of course the language that we use does not reflect any of the organisations that we work for. It's there for the bants. It's there for the banter, folks. So if that's not for you, drop off right now. But I would encourage you to hang on because the dude is really knowledgeable. The dude is nothing like what you thought him to be. And we all say don't judge a book by its cover, but it's deep within us. You know, he is a big, scary, bold military weapon. He's operated in some of the most hostile areas across the world. Across 24 years service, we talk about basic training, we talk about joining the special forces, all of the courses, all the promotions, all the challenges, and he even goes so far as to give us a few insights into the world of interrogation, what works, what doesn't work, and also some of his childhood. You know, he got stabbed twice. I mean, I wouldn't dare fire a potato gun at this guy, but yeah, you get yourself in these situations, past life. And before we get into the episode, I'm actually going to throw my hand up and say I messed up. I messed up on this one, folks. I was so excited doing our intro. When we get onto these podcasts for some inside knowledge on this, we always have a chat first. We always kind of get familiar, then we hit record and we go for it. We're recording from the get-go on this one, and because of that, I did not do a sound check. We were just flowing, shooting the shit and having an absolute scream together. So, as a result of that, Dilksy's audio is a little bit scratchy, far scratchier than you would expect from a normal podcast from us, and that is my fault. I take absolute responsibility for that. But within this, and as I listened back to it several times, you know, I thought to myself, don't make great the enemy of good. And not even just good, because that's actually a little bit offensive. Our conversation was great. I loved it. Listening back when it came back from editing, fantastic. Some of the knowledge bombs that he drops and just his demeanour, how he articulates himself, the way he goes about it, his self-awareness. Such a great guy. So if you can hang through and forgive some of the audio crackles when it drops through, then I know you're going to love this one. There's so much in there for people to take away from it. We are coming up to rounding off 2023, and this one has been sat in the chamber for a little while whilst people have tried to get this audio to as good a place as we'd like it to be. We're always that constant student, always trying to get ourselves better, always looking for them 1% gains. So moving forwards, expect better, expect more. And even from myself, you know, I've said there is some strong language in this. We get heavy into the bro language inside our own conversation, you know, watchroom, barracks style conversation. So know your audience, know that we flex our style when we have different guests on, and this is me and Dilksy just going full leather with a little bit of dark humor in there, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for continuing to support the podcast. I hope you take a lot from this episode. 24 years in the military, bringing all of that skill set, all of that knowledge into the Fire and Rescue Service now. Please welcome my guest, Ian Dilks.
I'm good, mate, at this time in the morning. What are you saying that?
I was thinking late last night, I was, me and my missus are watching. We never really watch films, right? I always, I don't know what you're like. I don't watch TV. Do you watch much TV, or do you watch films, or what's your go-to?
Mate, I'm not. I watch random shit. It's bizarre. Just at the minute, I've never watched The Sopranos, so
So you're looking for something to watch.
I'm so out of date. I know, yeah. I've nearly finished it as well.
I can't really watch TV. So, but like, if I'm committing to something, I'm like, okay, I can watch a film. So, like, that's committing me for like an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever. But anyway, we got into that Thai rescue thing. Have you ever seen that, where they rescue the 13 kids out of the caves in Thailand? I forget when.
Oh, I've seen bits of it. It's fucking harsh, isn't it?
Yes, man. So it was a British firefighter was one of the guys over there, because I'm prepping to have a chat with him at some point in time. So I thought I'll watch the film because it's been on my list for ages. And yeah, man, so they put them down there, and then they find the kids and they put them under ketamine, and they have to top them up as they're going through the caves. And it's like a 6 or 7 hour dive each way, to get to the kids. It's not like, I just can't comprehend that shit, because it's fucking sensory deprivation.
You think when we do a BA wear and you're in there, 15, 20 minutes? Yeah. And it's shit when it's proper thick, and then you think for 7 hours and you can't see your hand in front of your face. That's dog shit. That's proper dog shit.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
We had a guy on from the German fire service, I think it was, and they have dive teams still. I think it was Germany, somewhere else, can't remember now. One of the early days, like 3 or 4 years ago, this was. And they still have dive teams because they regularly go out to vehicles submerged in water and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So they do training dives every 2 weeks, and they do it off the coast of an old military base. And they have to go down and they swim out for like 2 hours and find loads of different wrecks and fucking helicopters and shit that they've sunk and do a few drills. But he says every now and again, you're not by yourself. He says because there's seals and shit that are around there. And it's just That's fucking bizarre. Pitch black. He says you go down and like bizarre, if they're coming straight at you, he says it just looks like a big rock that's just fucking moving towards you. And he says once they're with you for the whole thing. Sense. So it's just fucking pitch black, and you just feel them bumping up against you. But he also said you're not allowed to dive more than 2 or 3 times a week. And then you have to go and see the psych, and they regularly because he says you're down there for 2 or 3 hours, and I imagine this is like nowhere near even as hard as the cave and stuff, because he says it is just full sensory deprivation. And
we have some lads in the military that specialised in diving, and they were just a weird bunch. You think they go underneath a ship and they're down there for a couple of hours because they're on forced air, they're not on cylinders, they're on just a fed airflow system, so they can be down there for hours underneath a ship.
Oh, you see, that really would fuck me up because, well, I don't know. And you don't know until you do it. But the idea that there's a tube between me and the thing, because when you got your own set, it's a little bit like, I always think of this with rope versus BA when I think of our stuff, is because with BA, okay, shit can go wrong, but you're kind of self-sustaining. You're in charge of all your own shit. It's kind of like this egotistical thing I have where I'm like, look, I got myself in here. I know how to fucking get out. I'm not going to be one of the fucking statistics. No offense to people that, I'm very respectful of all that sort of stuff. But I'm also like, I can't see myself ever getting lost or something and stuck in there because I just over-index because I think the pass rate is so low these days in the UK Fire and Rescue Service with stuff like BA and shit. But anyway, I over-drill, so I'm really good at it. But with rope, I'm like, I'm relying on the person up there. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, because you can't switch gravity off.
Rope shit, isn't it, when you're getting dangled off. You think, oh, some bloke's having a cardiac arrest on a crane. We're going to dangle you down to him. Oh, brilliant. With a defib. Nice one. Cheers. And you're there. There's 2 clowns on IDs just talking to each other going, he'll be all right.
When's the last time I ain't done this in months of you, Jeff? No, I ain't fucking, I ain't got this cat out of the bag.
Which way?
Yeah, which way is it?
Don't go again. Which way does it go again?
Flow, anchor, it's all that sort of shit.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's good to see you, brother. There's a million directions I want us to go in this morning, but there's loads of bits that we can go into. I know there's a few bits we can't go into. if I ask you anything, it's highly unlikely. I think it's only happened 2 or 3 times. If I've asked somebody something, you know what it's like. You've chatted with far more people than I have. You get a feel for the conversation. You're like, yeah, this is a good area to go. It's not a good area to go. But if I do ask you anything that catches you out, it's not designed to catch you out. So you just say, Pete, can't go there, or rather not go there. It
is. I'm down in London next week doing some green screen stuff, and the amount of times when, it's like we talk to camera stuff, we have to do it every year, and she'll go, it's random, isn't it, when they're sat next to the camera, and she'll go, Dilksy, can you just explain about this? And I'll go, yeah. So I'll get it in my head, and I'll start talking, and I go, Jane, I fucked it. She's like, that's all right, Dilksy. And I'm like, I've totally gone. She went, where have you gone? I went, I don't know. I just start talking shit. I was like, can we start again? She's like, yeah, go again. Oh, mate, the amount of times I have to do that.
I think that there is a moment, isn't there, where it's a bit like, when you're falling asleep when you're driving and you slip into the little bit and then you can come back on the road and it's fine. But then you've been skirting in the fucking curb for about 7 seconds and you're about 15 words deep and you're like, this is bollocks now. I'm completely fucking lost. Because I do it on podcasting. Like I do circular speaking where you kind of buffer out for the other person because you can tell the other person's come to the end of their point and you're like, paraphrase, waffle a little bit. But then sometimes I'm too busy thinking about the next thing I want to ask. I'm like, what the fuck am I even saying?
You just said about, when you fall asleep when you're driving. I did and drove into the back of a post office van on the M25.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
Mate, early days when I was, when I first met my wife, I was an on-call firefighter. I've been an on-call firefighter for about 7 years at that point. So I was doing about 84 hours a week on call. And then I worked the doors in a city nearby me. And then I was a security manager at a big shopping centre, basically. And then I also did a few hours at a gym. So I would basically, imagine this, so I'd be on call all night, and I'd leave at about 4 or 5 a.m., get to work, do a 6 till maybe 6, and then I'd go to work to the gym for about 3 hours, and then I'd go and work on the doors in the evening. And I was just fucked, but I was fucking taking speed. I was fucking caffeine to my eyeballs, trying to charge that cognitive horsepower, and the amount of damage I did to my car.
Oh, yeah.
Just falling asleep at the wheel and all that shit. Yeah. And I know military just as bad, going on full weekend benders or full weekend exercises and then driving the length of the fucking country to do something else. Yeah. And it's just like, I just need to get it done. Fuck it. I want to get home. There is something, isn't there, where you're like, I've only got an hour and a half till I'm home. I don't want to fucking stop and have a 20-minute nap. You're like, I'm just gonna windows all down, shouting, fucking crank the music up. I just I can't. If I have something to eat, like I have loads of rice cakes or something, as long as if I can just keep eating something, I don't know. It just kind of keeps my brain-ish awake. But sometimes I can fall asleep. So I've fell asleep when I'm talking mid-conversation.
Yeah, it does get you like that. We'd filmed in Rathay the second time I filmed, and it was a lockdown zone, so they didn't fly us up. So, and production, they said, you can come to a rap party. And then the chilled us off. They went, you're not invited to a rap party. So I got the fucking arse. I was throwing my tennies out. I was like, right, fucking pack my car up. About 8 o'clock at night from Rathay, drove back down to Hull. I was like, fucking got to Glasgow, and I was hanging. Just bought a load of Red Bull, had the windows open, and periodically I'd drink Red Bull, and I'd just go, I was smacking my face. I was like, you can do it. And you think, why don't I just pull over? My missus is asleep anyway. I'm not going to get home, any realistic.
You're like,
you just think, I can just make it. I can do it. I'm not doing it.
I've had to pull over a couple of times, and even when I've pulled over, then it's like I'm so fucking angry I've pulled over. I can't fucking sleep anyway. It's like I can't just recline my seat back, and I'm sitting there, and I'm cold, and I'm annoyed, and I'm like, I just want to fucking go. Another 10 minutes, and it's almost just so I'm telling myself, another 10 minutes sleep, and then I'll go, I'm not fucking sleeping now. So I'm fucking
you just laid there, you might as well crack on.
Just sat there and
I've never done it. I've done it once. We come back from Ibiza, and I was feeling rough. I was driving back down to the regiment. I was like, I need to pull over. And I had 6 hours sleep in a McDonald's car park. That's how bad I must have been. Full 6 hours. And then I got a fucking parking ticket. Because I'd gone over the time. I went in, I had a piss and something to eat. 6 hours. And then I got a parking ticket because I went over the 2 hours.
Just walked up and put a parking ticket on it with you asleep inside it. Didn't think to knock on the window.
Didn't think I'd knock on this fellow. He looks all right. No, wanker. Just put a ticket straight in the car. Just left him.
Mate, that'd be a real time warp if you woke up 6 hours later. You'd be like,
oh, man, I didn't have a clue where I was. I was like, I felt so rested. And then I was fuming because I'd seen this thing stuck to a window. And I had to drive the rest of the journey back down to Ipswich, as shit as it is, on the A14.
Oh, mate. So, there's so many areas. When I was looking stuff up, I've got fucking so much stuff up in front of me that I want to talk. I want to ask you about Jamie Peacock. I want to ask you about, obviously, your service work. I saw you posted something the other day, 27 different fucking medals for a whole host of different stuff. Some stuff, I'm sure. I thought you were just a chef, is what I was told. One of the lads was telling me you were just a cook, so...
Like Casey Ryback.
I don't know if you managed to steal all them off. I mean, I think I've been looking on Amazon. I can get a couple of them for about $8.99 each, I think. But anyway, when did you start your career, mate? Because you must have started the military fairly soon after school-ish, not blowing smoke up your ass, but you don't look old enough to have done something before that, because you did 24 years.
I didn't, no. Yeah, I did 24, yeah. It was I was 16. I joined the 6th of September, 93, so I was 16 in April.
How do you remember the date?
Because it's very specific. I remember when I joined the fire service the 4th of September 17. And I remember, because it's September, it's easy to remember.
Yeah, I suppose so. My brain doesn't work like that. I know roughly. I gauge it off other things, like how old my kids are or how old whatever, but I'm fucking terrible with dates. But anyway, you joined back then, 16 years of age.
Yeah, I was joined at 16 because I wouldn't say I had a terrible upbringing, because that would be the bollocks. And people say, oh, I've had this upbringing and that's what made me do it. I didn't have the best upbringing. My dad, like, when I was a kid, was in Nick and that. I was a little shit. I was into crime and shoplifting, but nothing no other kids into. And then I thought, I need to sort something, because a few of my mates were going to Nick and going to Boston and stuff, and I thought, I need to change this. This is no good. And you can only change things yourself. And I remember my mate was on about going to the careers office, and we'd had like a talk at school. The army come in and did some recruiting, and I had long hair. I'll show you a picture and come up.
I've seen some of the old pictures.
Long hair down here, right? Proper long hair, and I was like, I need to sort something out. So went to the careers office just to sort of hold his hand, really. And then they said, why don't you do the fitness? And I was always fit. I was running for school at cross country. I played loads of different sports, and I was like, I did it. And they also went, we've seen something in him here. And then I did the tests and stuff, and then they offered me the sort of, so do you want to come on this weekend? So I did the weekend, and then I ended up joining. I didn't tell none of my mates I was doing it, and then I shaved my head and just went. And that was it. And then, obviously, I'm from Leicester, so I kept going back to Leicester to see my mates, but then eventually you just end up leaving fully.
Wow. That's a pretty fucking big move at such an age like that, because
16,
friends are your world at that age. You know, you start to distance yourself from your folks. It's, you know, boys for life kind of shit, and you're all, you know, you're planning for the weekend. That's what it was like for me anyway. And you kind of build, a lot of mine was built around sport and the gym and doing different dealings of different things. And I remember when I went through recovery, I had to just cut myself off from my entire fucking tribe. But to completely rip yourself out of that location as well, moving something like the military.
It was hard,
How big was the level of fuck it that must have been involved? Or was it not like I hate this, I need to go? Because so many people do live a life that they're half happy with, but to actually do something about it is huge.
Because I kept in touch with my mates when I could, because obviously I'm old, you know, mobile phones didn't exist then, so we had a payphone in the block, and you had to have a queue. It was like prison. You had to have a big queue to get the payphone. And then if anyone heard you say, gee, Mum, I miss you, I love you. So yes, pathetic. People were like, oh, I don't miss you, Mum. And then you'd hang up because you were getting bullied, or someone would throw like an empty bottle of water at your head. So you were pressured on the phone. So when I get leave, I remember the first 12 weeks, they basically went, right, you're asked for 12 weeks, you don't go home. And the amount of young kids, it's just a proper kick up the arse, because you think, 1 minute you're a kid living at home, your mum and dad are doing everything for you. Next thing, you get hammered, you make your bed, you get thrashed around the block, you get shouted at, you're cleaning everything. It's just a massive systematic change to life, and it's just crazy.
Because I think that, I wonder if that's harder now. Do you ever go back and do any kind of training? Or I know you probably stay in touch with a lot of different people in the serving, but like that aspect of the character building, but also the personal admin side of it, just
self-care, self-accountability, your ability to look after yourself. I think that's a hemorrhaging skill set. But even back then, it was, I know a lot of people, when they speak about their time joining the military, that was a real forging moment for them because it's personal admin. It's just looking after yourself and becoming an independent, self-sustaining human being is a huge shift. And I think that's such a positive thing that the military does for people, especially young men.
It's massive. It's massive. You do see it. You see how people changing now. Even like, it's something you take through to later life. Even when I crossed to the fire service, which we'll talk about later, I found it, we had young lads joining at 2021. And they had no clue. And we did a 14-week residential training course. And I was on to show them how to iron, show them how to do the shoes, got a locker layout, show them how to do the beds. Some lads didn't even know how to wash properly. And you're like, how have you got through life when, I just put a bit of deodorant on? I'm like, mate, you fucking stink. You need to get in that shower. And it's just, it's bizarre how, and especially I think, not so much social media, but I think the youth now are just, everyone can blame everyone else and it's all done for me. So when you go in, you have to take accountability for yourself, and you go, well, you are doing your own washing, and you are doing this, and you are basically self-sustaining. I think it's a great achievement, especially when you're younger, for males and females to both do it. Especially now, females are in the military a lot more.
What do they give it with the fire service? And I wonder if it's the same with the military is my question, because I feel like they don't start from the same starting line. It takes a bigger bravery and cognitive push for a woman to get into the fire service. I've thought often it must be the same for women getting into the military. There's a little bit of, you're not going to fucking make it. You're here just because to make up the numbers. You're here to make up the quota. So they must have a big fuck you muscle that makes them want to push harder. I feel like they've got more skin in the game. I don't know if that's just... I don't know.
You do. You see, you do get that, because we're sort of blokes in the army, they'll join and you get that plethora of the really good, really shit, and you get a plethora of in between. Where when you get females join, they tend to be, because they push themselves that hard, they tend to be really good at what they do. There's only a couple that are pretty shit, and you don't really, they leave after a while because they don't like it. But the ones that stay tend to really fly through the ranks as well. And some people say, oh, it's because they're female. It isn't, because they've excelled.
I think you're right. And I think that,
if you promoted them,
when you see the shit, one or two shit women as well, even the women don't like the shit women because they're just ruining it for those that are really, really pushing. And I've seen it in the fire service. A couple of shit girls every now and again will join, and the other girls really fucking dislike them because they're like, you know, how hard we have to work to be. And they are, at an average, if we took an average, I'd say the average woman in proficiency in the fire service is like a 7 or an 8, where the average bloke is like a 5 or a 6. You get the odd bloke who's a 10, and there's definitely more men that are 10s than women that are 10s, but that's just because there's more men in the army or in the fire service. I find it's a mean average.
Game, isn't it?
They really, and they tend to listen. I find this with point of entry selection tests as well. Like, you give a bloke a brief, and we have it with the podcast. Sometimes we spoke before we came on. It's like, you know, you give them a brief and they're like, yeah, I'll nail this. My dad was a mechanic once, you know, if it's a dexterity test or it's a physical fitness test. And they're like, oh, I'm a fit bloke. I'll fucking nail this. It's not just, and it's something I'd love to ask you about, because I suppose the SAS aspect was a little bit like this as well. We're not just looking for a stud. We're not just looking for someone that's full of fucking brimming full of sperm and thinks they're the shit. Can you listen to instructions? Can you listen to what I'm telling you to do? And women tend to listen a lot better. It's like they're proper dialed in, and that's why they get it right most of the time. Because we're not looking for the best athlete. We're looking for someone that can follow orders and do as I've asked you to do when I've asked you to do it. Not interpret it and just go and fucking smash it out. Today's podcast is powered by our partner Lifelines and their revolutionary approach to functional hydration. Just like in firefighting, water is essential for body function, but studies show more than 80% of firefighters are dehydrated. A 25-year study findings from the National Institute of Health showed poor hydration to be linked to early aging and chronic disease, and even mild dehydration results in significant negative impact outcomes, including headaches, exhaustion, rapid pulse, irritability, and poor cognitive function. A study conducted by Yale University showed that participants who were just 1% dehydrated had a 12% increase in errors when performing tasks that required cognitive flexibility. In addition, dehydration is shown to worsen mood and attitude, contribute to confusion and poor decision making,
and negatively affect memory and judgment. In other words, you really don't want your incident commander, firefighter, or for that matter, any first responder on a critical scene to be even slightly dehydrated. Mild dehydration occurs when a person is just 1.5% dehydrated, a condition that does not even trigger the thirst response in most people. So just imagine how quickly a firefighter or any first responder can and does become dehydrated in their day-to-day duties, which is why I address my hydration first thing every day with Lifeline's. Go into the notes for this episode and specifically check out Lifeline's Hydro Fuel and Hydro OG by clicking in the notes for the podcast for a clean energy solution designed for those who demand more from their day. Now back to the show.
No, it is. I've actually been training a female firefighter now, she's crew manager now, but I've been training her at boxing. I trained her last year and she won a fight, and I carry on training her now, and I don't really train many lads because they tend not to listen, but she will listen to exactly what I say. If I tweak a little bit of a thing, she'll implement it straight away. And she'll ask for feedback, whether it's good or bad. She's really good at feedback, where you know as well as I do, a lot of blokes will go, you give them a bit of feedback, well, I'm doing that right. You're like, well, you're not.
Defensive.
And then they'll just go with the bad feedback, and they're just positive on the stuff they're good at.
Yeah. Most
it's really refreshing.
They want you to massage their ego. They're not looking for feedback. But when you give them feedback, people just hear criticism. Some people do. Can I offer you some feedback? I love feedback because it's the only way that I develop a lot of my stuff that I get better at.
You've got to have feedback because it's that continual cycle. If you're not happy with feedback, you're never going to progress.
Well, I think you're always getting it anyway. And what I mean by that is secretly, if you don't take feedback from the people around you, then life gives you feedback. And the feedback from life is, and people have it, they have this like feeling of, I'm not fucking getting anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Nothing's fucking happening. Yeah. Why is Dilksy making progress? Why is he done? I'm not talking as he got promoted, but just in life. Why is he happier? Why is he happier with his partner? Why is he fitter than me? Why is he, seems to be making progress? Why is he getting these opportunities? And you say to him, hey, mate, why don't you go and speak to so-and-so? And they say, why don't you put yourself forward for that? Or, why don't you get involved with this? Why don't you join us for a run on the weekend? Or, we're doing a study session tonight. It's those moments that life is giving you indirect feedback. You can feel that, and even if shit ain't working with your partner, they're probably, and then they might be an absolute clusterfuck themselves, but life is always giving you feedback. So I think of it like discipline as well. It's like, if you don't assert discipline upon yourself, life will discipline you because it's going to happen.
It'll catch you out sooner or later. There's only so much you can bluff, and then they just fall on your ass.
Yeah, 100%. So you joined at 16. How long was basic training for you? What did you think you were going to do with it? Because 24 years, you went full fucking hog. We speak to a lot of people with the greatest of respect that go, I had a career in the military, and they've only done like 5 years, which is fine. But and I suppose 5 years for anybody these days is a career, because we switch careers, different lives. But I always think, like, you must have not liked it then, or why did you only do 5 years? Help me understand how all that works.
I was doing it for a couple of years to sort of get myself sorted, and then I was going to come out. And
I get a trade and then come out, because a lot of people...
Yeah, I get a trade. Because when I joined, it was like, because we were 16, it's classed as an apprenticeship. So I went to Chepstow, and we joined as like an apprentice tradesman. So you went out to Chepstow, and then you did a different trade. So I joined as a bricklayer and concreter. So I'll get my brickying trade. So I did about 18 months at Chepstow. Then we went to Chatham to do our bricklaying trade. So you did loads of soldiering to start off with, which was like a junior leader soldiering. So you just got thrashed, trained on different weapons, soldering skills and all stuff, fieldcraft. Loads of drill. And then you had a big parade. And then we went to Chatham to do our phase 2 trade training. And I did bricklaying and concreting. I was like, this is all right. I'll get my bricklaying and concreting. Then I can leave the army and be in bricky on site. And the army have paid for it all, and it's all sorted. And then I seen my brother's older than me. He was in the army at the time. He went, why don't you go to the Paras side of it, like the engineer Paras? Because I joined the Royal Engineers, and then you can move across to the Royal Engineer Paras, which was like 9 Squadron at the time. So I said, I'll do that. Yeah. So went to do phase 2 training. Went to Gibraltar Barracks, where you do all like combat engineering, where you blow stuff up, build bridges. Quite cool training.
Nice.
I like that. And then I'll go and do the Paras side of it. So then in 1995, I went across to Aldershot, did pre-parachute like we call it pre-para, which is pre-parachute selection. And then you go to P Company, we're up in Catterick, and you do a parachute selection course. You get hammered on that, then you do your jumps course. And then I was at 9 Squadron then. So I'd been in, 2 or 3 years, got maroon berry on, set of wings on my arm. I was like, I'll do this for another couple of years. This is all right. And then you just then we were so busy. So in 96, I went to Canada for about 3 or 4 months. In 97, I went to Kenya for 4 months. Came back from Kenya, went to Cyprus for 6 months. It was brilliant. So I was like, you're just getting bounced about, doing all this stuff. And then I came back from that, did a bit more trade training. And then I started boxing. Once I got into boxing, I didn't wear a uniform for about 3 years. I just boxed for the Army. I was the Army boxing champion. I was Combined Service boxing champion. You wouldn't believe it with me looks, would you? It's like I've never been
how old would you have been then? What are we talking there? 20, 21? Or
so what's that? Yeah. So 98. So what would have been then? Sort of, yeah. So 98, 21.
How do you get the amount of freedom to move around like that? Because I'm listening to you there. A lot of stuff in public services is dead man's shoes. You've got to wait for spaces. But it sounds like in the military, when people say, I applied for this, or I went to go and do that, there's also like a real, and I don't know if it's the same across all RAF, Navy, military, and all that sort of stuff, but isn't it something like if you don't progress after 7 years or 5 years, or so, there's a rule someone was telling me about the other day, they'll sack you off. Basically, or you get a strong conversation.
They encourage you to promote, where we know as a firefighter, firefighters are happy to stay firefighters for 20, 30 years. Yeah. And you can stay at the same station, you can stay on the same watch. Where when I first joined the fire service, I found that quite weird. It's like, what? They're not pushed to promote, or they can just stay where they are. And don't get me wrong, it's good because you meet a lot of firefighters that are fucking mega at the job. They know firefighting inside out, and then you get some that just rest on the laurels and just sit there.
There's a lot of dead wood in the fire service.
They're not very good.
I think if you don't promote, you should be made to move stations every 3 years or something like that.
I've just moved down. We'll probably go on to that later, but I've just done 6 years at one station. I've come back to Hull now, which is it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like I've changed jobs. I'm at a new station. There's new specialities, new specialisms. I can cycle to work. It's so much easier. But the military side of life, where you do, once I started getting promoted, I think I first got promoted I got promoted in 99. So what would have been in then? 6 years. So I first got promoted after 6 years. Then I got promoted again in 2002. Then I got promoted again in 2007. And I got promoted again in 2011. So you've just naturally progressed. But they're really trying to encourage you. So what they'll try and do is the Army will give you a posting, you'll get a job, and you'll do it for 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and then they'll look at actively trying to post you to a different unit, a different regiment, just so you become that more rounded soldier. That's what they want you to do. So you pick up trades, you go to different units. Like I went to training regiments, I did the interrogation, which is a bizarre job. It was just all different remits and jobs. But I was lucky that I stayed with like the airborne side of life pretty much my whole career. I've just worn maroon throughout my whole career, which was I just went training regiments, then come back, do this, come back. I'd just move away and come back.
What was the appeal for the paras versus other disciplines? Because I don't know, but from third-hand accounts, I hear there is a big us versus them and who's better and dick swinging and all this sort of stuff.
As in the Marines, it's pretty,
yeah. That's what I'm on about.
We've got because obviously the engineers is a big four, but we've got it's a regiment now, so we've got 2-3 parachute engineer regiment, and then you've got a commando regiment basically. And it used to be 5-9 commando squadron, and it was 9 parachute squadron, and we were the biggest rivals. And whenever you go on tour, if you work with the Royal Marines, you obviously always get on when you're on tour, but it's when you're at either social or you're doing an exercise, you've always got to try and beat them. You've always got to do more. And even on tour, if we take over from the Royal Marines in Afghanistan, and you look at the patrol logs, and they patrol for this amount of time, so we're going to patrol more. We're going to push out further. We're going to do this, and we're going to get more... more.
But if you guys and girls are working in such similar, scenarios, such similar environments, you're going on the same deployments, for people, including myself, because I'm not going to pretend to know more than I know at all, like, what is the fundamental differences between the two
the two roles, the two regiments? What's the skill sets difference? Why be in one versus the other?
To be honest with you, there isn't a massive amount of difference because your kit and equipment's pretty much the same. Your TTPs, like your training and stuff, pretty much the same. They'll specialise more amphibious Royal Marines, where they'll go to that amphibious side. They'll work off boats, and they're part of the Navy and they're funded by the Navy. But they'll work hand in hand like that. But when it comes to when you're out on the ground, there's not that much of a difference really.
No.
There's just little nuances where they'll do a certain thing differently in the airborne side of life, where some airborne lads won't like me saying this if they listen to this. The Royal Marines do some things very well, where they'll think a little bit more about stuff. Where airborne, it's just hard and aggressive.
Airborne all the way. I'll hit it with my head until it breaks.
Yeah, we'll just smash it. Right. What's the way we can do this? How are we going to get to this compound? We'll just fucking smash through the walls and we'll raid it. Or, right, we need to do some dominating on the ground. Well, we'll just fucking go out and dominate the ground. And if anyone pops up, we deal with it.
We'll just fuck them up.
Yeah. And that's why I just love being in that regiment, because everything was right. We can do it. We'll just smash the fuck out of it. And this is how we're going to smash the fuck out of it.
Which never consider,
where they like the royal side of life will go, we'll think about it a little bit more and we'll do that. But eventually it's going to come down. You end up going to try and smash the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
And do it that way.
I do hear when because we had Rudy Reyes on probably a year or so ago now.
Really fucking brilliant.
He's fucking got some stories, bless him. What fuck?
Mate, I fucking ran every now and again. I was sat at home with Mrs. and my phone will just ping like a WhatsApp message. So I was just looking. It's a video from Rudy. So I thought, Sarah, come look at this. So we just open it, and you know what he's like. His phone will turn around. He's like, "Hey, brother." And he's there, he's bouncing around, and then he'll get his Mrs. Jade. Have you seen her weapon stuff? She's fucking awesome, like expert. She's fucking amazing. So then she'll pop up, I don't feel alright, and then he's like, brother, I miss you, brother. We'll have to catch up soon. We're going to. He's like, he's just such a nice bloke. He's so nice.
But he said about the UK soldiers as being more of a thinking soldier, which is probably something I'd like to encounter, and I think that's maybe an aspect of many things that we have to be, because we are smaller than probably most, and you'll know far better than me, but in terms of fighting forces, I think the fucking New York Police Department is significantly larger than I think the UK military as a standalone. I saw a ridiculous statistic like that the other day.
They've probably got more guns.
But yeah, we've got to load the gun, we've got to aim it, and we've got to shoot it. Versus the old analogy of the Americans is there's one person loading it, there's one person looking, there's one person shooting. You know, we have to be a bit more tactical. But there's also this aspect of like the stiff upper lip with the British soldier. So I mean, of your travels, and I'm not looking for you to slate other nations or anything like that, but what is it you think about the British military? Because we had, do you know who Chris Murray is? We had Brigadier Chris Murray, who was the head of the logistics corps, as well as something else. I remember reading his bio the other day. He was in charge of something like 17% of the British Army at some point in time. But anyway,
I think I heard of him on the Olympics. You know, I think he was part of G4S on the Olympics.
Maybe, yeah, he's retired now. Lovely fella. But again, some of the stuff he was speaking about, he still looked in great pride about the British military, but he does worry from a position of recruitment and retention and people not serving for as long. What do you think looking back? And I know we're not skipping to the end of your time in the military, because loads of other things I want to ask you, but like, what do you think is special about the British military? Because it is, you know, we look at the fire service as well. It's held procedurally in quite a high esteem globally. People do look at it as proficient soldiers, but I don't want to start. I feel like we rest on our laurels sometimes with that.
The British military I still love the British military. I look back on my time in the military with a massive proudness of what I did, what I achieved, what we achieved as a unit and an army. Do you know what I mean? And we did so much, and it was I was lucky to be in a time where it was so busy as well, where we was just bouncing about, where we talk about retention and recruitment, and like when I looked at it, I sort of wanted to go away and wanted to do stuff and wanted to make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Where you see things now when There's not really that much going on. Even there is around the world, there's not for the British military.
No.
It's not that time, and people, young squaddies get bored. And you trying to make stuff interesting and trying to keep them in without losing them, because they learn a certain set of skills, as Liam Easton says, but then people try and poach them on Civvy Street because they're attractive.
Fucking recruiting out of the military is a fantastic... This is something Chris spoke about as well, and a few other people. They're conditioned. They actually get shit done. Do you know what I mean? I think Chris, I don't think he'd mind me saying, to be fair, Chris from SS Who Dares Wins, I think, and I don't know, I might have to edit this out, but he's stepped away from that because he's been poached by, I think, a big organisation that he's now working with, and we won't go into too much depth about that, but basically...
I met him a couple of weeks ago, and he's doing really well, bless him. He said I spoke to him a couple of days ago, and he said to say hello.
Yeah, he's a lovely, lovely fella. But again,
he's doing
people
well.
like that, they're so conditioned. They're good operators. They understand leadership. They understand camaraderie. They understand getting shit done as well, because so many people are armchair theoreticians. Their bullshit baffles brains. You come into these people in civilian life all the time where they talk a great talk, but they just don't seem to get shit done, and they can't work very well with people. But there's something about military individuals. That's why I think we should actively recruit more retired military into the fire service, because they've still got 10, 15 years worth of really good, useful stuff in them.
I was looking at, when I joined at 40, and I thought, will I get in? And I thought, I'll apply. It was the worst that can happen. And I was lucky enough, I got in on my first attempt, where some people take 2 or 3 goes to get in. And I got in all right.
But I think there is a massive market for people that move out of that. So when you were going through it, you said you did this bit of time, and people will know you for this with the SAS Who Dares Win stuff that you do now. Talk to me about the time you spent training with interrogation, because I was looking it up earlier, and it is a whole different... I was looking at these 5 different techniques, because I think that's where some of it comes from, because I went down this rabbit hole, obviously, before I sort of went on the show, and I'll read you a little thing I've got in front of me now. So it talks about these 5 techniques, also known as deep interrogation. Group of interrogation methods developed in the UK during the 20th century, currently regarded as a form of torture, originally developed by the British forces, 20th century conflicts, most notable applied in detainees in Northern Ireland in the Troubles. The 5 methods are prolonged wall standing, hooding, subject to noise, deprivation of sleep, and deprivation of food and drink. That sounds like the fucking model that you boys and girls operate from. Is that bullshit? Am I just reading waffle off a website?
It did. It's cool. When it comes to interrogation, the old techniques they're a bit old-fashioned, really. They're a bit rudimental, a bit like agricultural, and what we've found as you develop the techniques, it's not just because on the show, harshness, aggressiveness. I'm not on there to play a good person, and they portray me as a right bastard, which I totally understand. And I'll talk about later. I still get people in the street think I'm some sort of psychopath, and they'll go, "You on the TV?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They go, it's bizarre.
Yeah. Especially when you turn up on a fucking fire engine. People are like, "This guy's supposed to help me."
Was at an RTC the other week, and a policeman asked for a selfie. It was an RTC, and I'm trying to cut a bloke out of the car.
I bet you get ribbed so much from the crew about that shit.
I was like, "Can we have one later? Can I have a picture later on? I've just got to try and cut this bloke out of the car, mate. He's about to go into cardiac arrest." We need to get him out, but he's in a bad way. But the interrogation, it had to develop because we used to work on like the premise of you don't speak, you give 6 bits of information. It used to be like big 4, big 6. You could give number, rank, name, blood group, religion, date of birth. That was it. In conventional war fighting.
Okay.
But what you found out, that gets you fucking tortured. That gets you killed because you've got to do this slow release of information where you've got to build that rapport. You've got to try and stay alive. You've got to drip feed information. If there is a cover story like I see on the show, drip your cover story as long as you can. Because the longer you can stay alive and be interesting, people are coming to get you out, aren't they? That's fundamentally. So that's what's going to happen. The longer you can stay alive, people are actively trying to get you out quickly. And so what we've realised with extraction of information from people, if you just go in a room and start shouting and bawling at someone, the screensaver mode comes on, they just go, "Fuck off, I'm not telling you anything." But then that screensaver mode, bosh, I'm not telling you a thing because you're being a complete prick to me. If you go in like on processing, you start chatting to them, give them a little chat and saying, hi, are you okay? You're doing this, you're doing that. They go, huh. And you lull them into a bit of a false sense of security. Sort of, you build that rapport with your captee as well, your prisoner. And they think, oh, they're not that bad. Like you see when I was talking to Alexandra Burke and we tripped her up a little bit because we really built rapport with her. She started calling me babe and, oh, she's doing all this. And because they forget where they are. And so we worked that sleep deprivation is very good, of course.
I think sleep deprivation is just one of those beautiful, simple of it. I mean, we alluded to it, chatting earlier about driving and shit like that. It's just one of the natural things your body, and yeah, we need water, yeah, we need food, and blah, 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 blah. But people will know this from shift work. People will know this from anything. Fucking mothers will know this. Do you know what I mean? Being up all night with your kids and all that sort of shit. It works. It is such an effective way to break a human being down so incredibly fast because your whole mind just starts playing tricks on itself.
Oh, it does, yeah. Because you start hallucinating. That's only the thing with those figures on sleep deprivation. If you miss one night's sleep, your reaction will slow down by 40% straight away. And then you go into a second night's sleep, it goes up to 60%. It's huge, how your brain and your cognitive process goes about things. And so you take away food, take away sleep, you take away it's like sensory deprivation. So you put gloves on them, goggles, earmuffs, and then people go into their own brain, and then that's where people don't like to be sometimes. People don't like sitting in their own brain, especially if they've got problems that are underlying. That's where things come out. That's what we always tell people. If you're going on a tour, make sure all your shit is in one sock, everything, all your admin's squared away, everything's done. So if something does happen to you, you're not worrying about your family, you're not worrying about the mortgage getting paid, you're not worrying about this. Sort everything out, so all you've got to do is look after yourself.
That's incredibly hard, I think, for people these days. I think we have gotten worse at that. I think, have you read a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death?
No.
Yeah, I forget the author's name. I'll Google it in a minute and try and pull it up so people can go and away and have a look at it. But
people don't allow themselves to get bored.
No, and this is it.
People don't get bored because
it's very
and
important.
when you have your little imagination, my brain, if you could spend time in my brain, it'd be like a child's brain because I just daydream and just potter about in my own little world where I've only just started to get onto Instagram. I don't really still know how I feel about it at the minute. And it's just a bizarre world of social media, but some people are on 4 or 5 different platforms of social media. So they're constantly on the phone. They have a break in of watching TV or a break at work. They're constantly checking on the phone. They don't allow the brain to either reset. It's just constant bombardment for the brain.
Yeah. You look at like little rats in cages and those old analogies. If you let something keep banging that dopamine button, it will do it. Of course it will, because your body chemically thinks that it wants it. But the purpose of that chemical was that it's something that would come across very rarely. It's the old you can spoil yourself with it. You wouldn't want to go to Disneyland every week because it'd lose its value. You wouldn't want to have a fucking treat meal every single day because it'd lose its value. Dopamine is supposed to be the same, but also cortisol is supposed to be the same. We're supposed to be stressed and petrified once every couple of days when we're about to get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. Now, not only are we drip feeding dopamine and smashing that button all the time, but we're also drip feeding cortisol and stress. We're on these social media platforms comparing ourselves to fucking hell, Dilksy's doing this and Pete's doing that and Sarah seems to be having an amazing workout every single fucking day and you're looking around and you see your kids fucking licking the window and you're like, oh, my life's a shower of shit. This isn't Instagram worthy. I'm fucking...
I know. What can I post now? So people try and look for these like more bizarre ways of living just lying in life and going, wow, that was just a good picture, but I'm not really happy in my life and I'm not doing this and I'm not concentrating on that.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. It's just...
I think it's weird when you see somebody go on a trip somewhere and they take a bunch of photos. I always, people at work, they'll send a picture and say, oh, I'm in the Moors today or whatever, or I'm in fucking Ibiza or I'm wherever in Thailand. Take a picture. And I'm just like, you're not in the picture, as silly as it sounds. And they're like, what are you on about? I says, the point of going there is I want you go and experience the thing. I says, because then I'll take the piss. I'll get a screenshot off Google and go, oh, this is me at the fucking North Pole. Oh, yeah, just come back from the moon. Here's a picture of the fucking moon. And I'm like,
the moon,
if you're just going to go somewhere to take a fucking picture of it, fucking be there. You don't need to.
Yeah.
You ever see on social media when people go, little Johnny's first day at school, little Johnny, I love you so much, I'm so proud of I'm like, has little Johnny got fucking social media? Who the fuck is this for? What the fuck are you doing? Who is you posting this for? Is this just virtue signaling with your fucking mates?
When they pop up and you go, why do they care about what school uniform they're in? Oh, such a proud day for him today. Oh, look at him going to school.
What the fuck?
Someone put, I saw a female boxer I know, Shannon Courtney.
Yeah.
She was on Celebrity Show. She posted on her social media. She went, "Oh, so proud of him today. Little man's going to school." And she put a picture of that random little Hezbollah bloke in the social media. And she put, mate, it cracked me up. She put, "Oh, so proud of the little man going to school today." And it was that weird little Russian bloke in his suit. And you're like, that is fucking brilliant. That is brilliant.
Shit. People do it to like dead people. Are sort of like, "Oh, Granddad, you've been gone 10 years. We still." Is Granddad on fucking social media? Is he fucking logging in from the other side?
I'd be impressed if he liked it. That would be impressive if he popped up Granddad likes it. You know what I mean? He just commented.
Granddad reposted this.
He just commented on it, put it on his story.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think. Because grief, because we all know about grief, we've all been through grief, but you get these people that are a bit like grief whores, they just post stuff on there, and you're like, deal with grief in your own way, you don't have to publicise grief.
Yeah, it's like depression.
You get likes.
Weird.
I find that's fucking weird, where you'll put grief on there, but you'll get likes on it. This is a fucking post about someone's dead granddad. Why are you liking it? That's weird. Dilksy likes this. Dilksy likes this. Feeling really shit today. Think I'm going to throw myself off the Ilma Bridge. Dilksy's just like that post. I might as well fucking push him up. Fucking hell.
I always think about this with women and men with alcohol. Like, if you see Sally's got a fucking glass of wine in the bath and she's like, "Oh, tough day. I've earned this." And she's sipping back. If I saw fucking Dilksy with a can of Foster's in the shower and he's like, "Tough week, fellas," we'd be like, "Dilksy, is everything okay, brother?" What's going on? We wouldn't be going, "Yeah, girl, you've earned that shit. You fucking
big man. You deserve this." Just crying in the shower with some Jack Daniels. This fucking shit. This is shit.
We'd be like, "Mate, give me a ring. Is everything all right? Let's meet down the pub."
That's all right. That's all right. The message left. It's happened again.
Oh, fucking hell, mate. So, how the fuck did we get onto that from torture? Jesus Christ.
I know, Hezbollah in a suit. I don't know where that comes from.
You know what? No, let's go here. This is a good segue for me. So let's be straight there. We're talking about a lot of dark humour. There's something about people from first responder, people from the front line, people from public sector work that have a big aspect of dark humour. It's a big cultural thing in the fire and rescue services at the minute. People trying to stamp it out. Has that penetrated the military at all? Has that made its way into the wokeness of the world? And we're not taking the piss out of people that genuinely struggle, but it's an important coping mechanism for the things that you have done, the things that you continue to do in your work. It's important.
Yeah, dark humour it's massive, especially in the fire service. We were just talking about, I did a bit of overtime yesterday. I went in grabbing for 9 hours, but we was talking about it on shift yesterday about dark humour. And we were talking about dark humour, but we were also talking about the man up, the man up culture. So, and some of the older firefighters, one lad's been in probably 24 years of firefighter, and he's really good. Still fit as a fiddle, probably early 50s. It's hammer me still running wise. But he was talking about back in the day where you go to, say, a horrific triple fatality that we're talking about, and the fire service basically just went, get back to station, have a brew, put it to the back of your mind, because that's always the best thing to do with anything like that, put it to the back of your mind, and then just go. The thing is, it's like, and this is what he said, the fire service said to him, one of the station managers, are probably well retired now, he said, if your pet rabbit died at home, I could understand if you was upset because it's your pet rabbit. If you see a rabbit squashed at the side of the road, you don't get upset because you don't know that rabbit. Think about those people as people you don't know. What? Fucking hell! I don't think that bloke works for the Samaritan, but that was that culture, and we had it in the army where we'd go to places, and the army embraced it a lot quicker than I think other.
Well, Trim came out of the
because they
military
have
and
to.
went into the police first, didn't it? I think.
Yeah, because and the fire service deal with things a lot better now, as you've seen. And I've seen it in the 6 years I've been in, where you'll have a major trauma sort of officer if you've gone to site, which most of us have, and then they'll come with you next on shift. They'll come either if you get back to station say at 3 a.m, they'll come and you have a table chat. And if you individually want to go and speak to a station manager, or they'll bring a psych in as well, and you can chat to him or her. And I found it's a lot better. But I think the majority of people would rather just have a bit of a chat when you sat around having a brew, and be it a little dark humour, or you can see the brain trying to process what they've just seen, because it is bizarre, as you know, in fire service and the military. Some of the things you see, it's bizarre. It's like you've watched a film, or it's like an out-of-body
Do you think it's harder to contextualise it in the military? Because like we're talking about there is putting the thing in context. So for people that aren't in the services that perhaps listening, like at a fire service, let's imagine road traffic collision, Dilksy's a driver, I'm the incident commander, or I'm fucking just one of the wearers. So I'm in there doing the cuts. I'm getting a different perspective on this incident than Dilksy's got. Dilksy's sat, he's watching holistically, he's seeing the whole roadway, he's getting all the messages, he's getting a bigger wide angle view, but he doesn't see inside the car, so he doesn't know what happens to the person, if they do or they don't die. Yeah, and he saw the incident commander's got a different perspective. The second crew that arrived and worked on the other vehicles got a different perspective. So when you sit down, you can connect all those dots. So you could triangulate it, and your mind can start contextualizing the trauma that you've been in. Because this is a thing, again, echoing back to the social media thing. I think the problem is trauma without context is damaging. Because when we watch fucking catastrophe porn online, and you're seeing this bloke got ran over, or this person got beheaded, you're like, you don't. That is bad for you, but it's a different thing than what we do, because we get the opportunity. But this is what I mean in the military. I don't know if you do get the same context. Like, I know why you're there. You're deployed to the area to do the thing, but you don't. Do you get to close the loop in the same way?
I think it's been more difficult as a firefighter than in the military. Okay. Yeah, because, and I'll explain why. And this is just my thoughts about it for doing both jobs, because in the military you do loads of build-up training, and 9 times out of 10 you're overseas, so you know exactly why you're going overseas. You know what's going to happen, and in your brain, when you're doing that PDR, so pre-deployment training, PDT, so you go overseas, you train for it, then you go to Afghanistan, and you sort of, once you land in Afghanistan, Iraq, or wherever you're going, your brain then switches into gear, so you're expecting to see something.
Yes.
So, and then you deal with it there, and then you fly home. So again, you're breaking that.
You put it in a box, and you go, that was me on deployment. Yeah.
Well, what I found weird is that, like you said about an RTC, and I won't go into specifics, but 1 minute you've cycled into work, and within an hour of being at work, you have an RTC, and it's someone who's been shopping. All the shopping's all over the road. They're not in a very good way, and you think, shit, this is right on my doorstep. I'm not prepared for this sort of thing, and that's where I've sort of gone, that's bizarre for me. I've found that weird.
You're changing gears so much more, aren't you? And I think that's with on call as well. I did on call for 10 years. Like, you're at work, fucking doing whatever in the factory or the shop that you work in. 10 minutes later, you've arrived at the station. You're out on the call. You go and do the thing. You get back, you have a quick chat. Someone unfortunately didn't make it, or they were eviscerated at scene, and then they had to help them package them up and get them off. And then you get back to station. Then you go back to work, or even if it's at a whole-time station, okay, I've done that. I finished at 7. Your missus rings. Hey, babe, hope you had a good shift. Can you just go and pick up little Johnny? Do you know what I mean? So you go and pick, and he's like, Dad, tell you all about football today. Blah blah blah. I've just been at James's house, and you're like, fucking wait, okay, 70-80% of your cognitive horsepower is trying to contextualize the things that you've done that day. Yeah, but little Johnny's got his own world, and you want to be present for him, or your fucking dog,
and you're trying to get your head around what you've just been doing and what you've seen, and you're like,
that is a bit of thing, I suppose. Then, it's kind of like, and also, like I always say this about military, it's like,
and I don't know what the statistic. I fucking change the stats every time I say it, but I remember reading it once. But it's less than a quarter or something of the military ever deploy into a conflict zone. And I imagine it was higher when you were there because they were much more active.
Yeah.
But now that number's probably shrinking all the time. But they still train all the time. They still train really well. And I think about this when you do find those lethargic firefighters. I'm like, we praise the military and how well they train, but we actually go to more stuff than they do. You know, if you join as a firefighter, there is a really high likelihood you will actually do the thing you're training to do. If you join the military, there might be a 40, 60% chance you never fire a weapon or you never deploy into a combat area. Yeah.
No, I agree. If you look at like traumatic events now as an operational firefighter compared to a soldier or someone in the military, that the exposure to traumatic events is a lot higher to a firefighter.
It's a lot higher than the paramedics as well. Like my brother-in-law is a paramedic, and I like going ride-along shifts with him every now and again, and he says, oh, you know, we like going on stuff for the fire service because we get to go to trauma. Whereas a lot of stuff they do, it's like, oh, this is Janice, she's got blood in her poo. And they sit in a fucking living room and go through all of the medication and take her to hospital.
We have to drill the front door for them.
Yeah.
Whereas
if we go to something, it's like, we only go for the fun bit of the party. As soon as it gets boring, we hand over to the police. or the ambulance take them and sit with them in fucking A&E for fucking 6 hours.
This car that's been on fire, we'll put it out, but you can actually call it off because we're going. We've got to get back in bed.
Yeah. Those are our three mates are going to fuck off. And you can sit here on your own in that car if you like.
Yeah, you're going to stag on that car. We're off at the station.
No, you feel, because a lot of military, have you got any people that left the military and joined the police though? Because I think it's a fantastic job. I thank people that do it. But fuck me, that's a hard sell. They must struggle with recruitment.
They must do, but I think... Yeah, I've had a couple of mates who have joined. Like a couple went into Met, a couple went into Surrey Police, a couple are in like SO19, you know, the armed part of the London Police. A couple have gone into that, and some enjoy it, some don't.
I think there's just so much paperwork with a role like that. So, talk to me, jump me through. So you went for your first promotion. How old would you have been? Because again, I remember Chris Murray saying he was 19 and he was in Northern Ireland in charge of like 45 blokes. And I think leadership at such a young age is a really, really great thing that the military get you to do. What were the different levels that you moved through?
It does. I got my Lance Corporal in 99, and I literally was on my promotion course in 99, and then Kosovo happened. So we got brought back pretty swiftly from that, did a bit of pre-deployment training, went straight out to Kosovo. And I got promoted in Kosovo, so I got put straight in charge of like a half section, and then you take a patrol out on the grounds, which is 6 to 8 people. So you go from looking after yourself, next thing you're in charge of 6 to 8 people on an operational tour. You're like, wow, it's a bit of a baptism of fire. You just get chucked at the deep end. You deal with it. You're in charge. You're on the radio. You're sending messages. Like, this is quite cool. You're going out, and it hammers it home. And then, so I did that, and then I pretty much came back from Kosovo. I went straight on the army boxing team. So I just wore tracksuit for a nice few years. And even
how
though
does that work then? Because the
I didn't wear uniform for like
in the fucking
2.5 years.
Is so huge, isn't it? Why do they allow time for that? Is it because they just like having proud of their athletes or what?
I think it's a bit scarcer now, but I had a sponsorship deal. We had dietitians. We had obviously full-time coaches. So you train either 2 or 3 times a day. You didn't do any soldiering. You were just a proper tracksuit soldier.
What the fuck?
So
but why?
It's amazing.
Why? What's the benefit for the military of that?
I think they're just because it's a big part of the military sport. So if you've got football, rugby, boxing, cricket. I've been to South Africa playing cricket. I've been all over the place playing cricket and.
I think that's incredible, and I'm not trying to convince anybody to lose it. But I'm like,
we went to America boxing. I went to South Africa boxing.
I was going to say, when you go do you just go and fight at the military, or do you actually fight public sector?
We had quite a lot. Yeah, I had about 54 fights. Yeah, so you'd be fighting sometimes once or twice a month. So you'd roll you out in London, so you go and fight a London. Like the best of London, or you go up to Manchester, you'd fight the Manchester area, and you get matched up equally like that. And then I went into the ABAs and stuff, so it was a really good opportunity.
So you do actually fight normal people in Civvy Street? Like, if someone were good enough in the military, not saying they're not, but like, could you see him fighting a Deontay Wilder? Is that actually practicable that they could do that?
We've had a few lads I learned that was on the army team go, I think a lad called David Barnes, his name was Dave Smith, and changed it to Dave Barnes. He was European champion. He left the military, went professional. We've had a few lads go professional and do all right. Yeah, they did really well.
Is it limited by the fact that it can't engage with some of the tomfoolery that happens in high-level boxing as well? Like, because there's a lot of money changes hands at those kind of levels, and I suppose the military can't really be part of any of that. You'd be getting paid your normal fucking wage, wouldn't you? You wouldn't.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I didn't do too bad. I got offered a professional contract off. It was then Frank Maloney. He's now Kelly Maloney now. He's changed gender. And he offered me a pro contract.
Wow.
And I went down to the Peacock Gym in London. I went to have like sort of a trial, as it were. And I thought, do I want to leave the army? Because the army pays me decent money, I've got a decent career. And realistically, would I be good enough to be pro? I'd have probably been maybe UK champion, maybe European. It was massively overrated, but I thought, no, I'm never going to be that high. So I've probably got, 5 years? So as I say in the military, where I know I've got a longer career.
What do you think you learned from boxing? Do you still spar now? Do you train anybody? Are you still engaged in it?
I coach one of the females at work, and I still like to every now and again. I take a lot of discipline from boxing, be it diet-wise, the discipline of being able to control my temper. I take a lot of. I think boxing is such a respectful sport where you learn manners out of boxing. You learn how to have a fight, but you also learn when not to have a fight. And I found that's one of the biggest takeaways of boxing is when not to fight. Because it's easy. You could go around blasting everyone in the face. It's easy because 90% of people can't have a fight. Even though they think they can.
No, 100%.
Discipline of going, no. Because I remember a long, long time ago, I won't go into specifics because I got not guilty on it. I got let off. But I remember punching someone and put them into a coma. And I remember sitting in the police cell thinking, this could be done. And luckily they came round. But I was sat in that cell for about 12 hours and they were still in the coma and they come round and it was their fault. But I said, one punch, you don't realise what you can do. And I thought, I need to think about what I'm doing because I'm a big bloke like you. You know how to throw a punch. You know how to put all that 17
nowhere near like you. When I used to work on the doors, I did a lot of CQC, so I was all about restraint. I always thought if I could get past that 3 feet of danger space and get hold of you, then I'd be all right. But I was never trained as a fighter.
No, I remember thinking, sitting in that cell and going, I need to sort of pack this in really, because you can do a lot of damage. So the amount of times now you've sort of held people that are trying to hit me because you know what you're doing, restrained them and gone, mate, or I've just walked off. I've just gone, you know what? I'm going to do you the biggest favour you're going to have.
How many people you think never get punched in the face though? Because I think again, you're not encouraging. We shouldn't all go around smacking
now.
But it's a great thing, and I think social media has made it worse as well because like people don't get that social etiquette because you don't understand the cost of being an absolute bellend.
No, I don't think people get punched in the face anymore because, especially kids don't fight at school. Not that I condone fighting at school, but a little scuffle at school would arrange Pete and Dilks having a scrap after school, meet round there, and everyone would come round and you'd turn up and have a bit of it was a terrible fight. But you'd have that because it was a consequence.
You'd end up scratching one of the teachers' cars because you'd fucking throw someone on the bonnet or something.
It was a consequence of you've had an argument, you're going to have a bit of a tussle and a bit of a sort out. It don't happen anymore, and because CCTV is massive, and in society people don't fight as much anymore, which is a lot better thing because you don't want that. But I think in general, there's no consequence, so people are happy to chop off and happy to talk shit. And I think I'm untouchable. I'll film you, and then I know you're not going to punch me in the face.
The only cost shouldn't be getting punched in the face, but in the same way, when we see the deterioration of some just generic social standards, we don't have inscription anymore. So people don't have to do a year. I think in Germany they still do something like 1 or 2 years It's not subscriptions. What's it called? Mandatory service. Conscription. Sorry, fucking clusterfuck. Yeah, and they have to do something, but they can do it in any service. So the reason I say it is because we had Dr. Michael Reich, who's a fire officer in Germany, he invented the smoke curtain guy, and he talks about that because a lot of people join the fire service because they don't want to join the military or whatever, and they learn great personal admin and they learn respect. Like I still call everybody sir. And people don't like that. When I meet people, they say, "Oh, you haven't got to call me sir," and they think it's about toxic masculinity and all this bollocks. I'm like, no, it's just the way my dad raised me. It's just the term of respect. I don't just say it because you're older than me. I would say it to people my age and younger. I don't know who you are, so I'm not going to say hello, mate. I mean, sometimes I might do if one of my kids' friends or something. I'm going to fucking call them sir. I might. It's like, it's term of respect, And I don't know how to effectively articulate it, and I don't know what to keep and what to lose. I don't think we should all be scrapping every day on the playground because, I think when I was working on the doors, loads of people started carrying knives, and that ruined everything because you couldn't if you just have a fight and then it's like, oh, fucking hell, that was a funny night. I learned my lesson. I'm not going to mess with him anymore or whatever. But then people started carrying things. So that's not an answer. I feel like
when I was about, I've been stabbed when I was about 19 in this. I've been stabbed twice actually, but I got stabbed in the back when I was a young squaddy, and I got stabbed in the stomach when I was doing a bit of moonlighting, working the door with a screwdriver. And I found it was quite ironic because it was a Kosovo fellow who stabbed me, and I'd liberated his country a few years ago. You think, that's fucking gratitude, isn't it?
You cheeky bastard. What did you think when those sort of things happened, though? Because how old would you have been when you were moonlighting on the doors? Because I stopped doing it when there was a thing that happened in the early 2000s where loads of people that were on the dole could get an SIA license, and then every fucking idiot started working on the doors.
You had no backup.
There was no backup. The money went through the floor. Everyone was on minimum wage on the doors. It didn't matter that you could handle yourself or not. They just wanted some big fucking idiot to stand on the door and look the part. So I feel like everything got worse then.
People skills. They didn't know how to de-escalate.
They were just a bully. They were a bully when they were a kid. Because one of my proudest things is I think I only got in less than 15, 20 fights when I used to work the doors, even though back then I was taking loads of masses of steroids. I was 24 stone. But for me, that's kind of where the podcast came out of as well, to be honest, because that was all about building rapport. It was like human behavior, being really interested in how can I deconstruct your perception of me really quickly? Because you'll probably have it yourself as well. Like people meet you for the first time, and even though I'm only probably 18 stone now, I'm still probably bigger than the most-ish people. But so people have a perception like, fucking hell, big, bold, white guy, this, how quickly I can deconstruct that by sacrificing my ego, by making myself appear vulnerable, being able to articulate myself, which is a difference. So I think it's also a hemorrhaging skill set. But like, how did you see that evolution of people that you were working with then? Because you'd come from, or you still were, in the military. So you were around people that genuinely could handle themselves. And how were you able to work with people when it was just such bullshit like that?
We were quite lucky because the little club I used to work at, the door staff was all sort of in-house and they'd been there years. And I was one of the younger people working there. It's probably mid-2000s. And everyone there, that was an ex-world champion boxer working on the door. A couple of lads who were nice. And at the door, they were their career doormen. So it was quite an easy place to work, if you know what I mean, on the door, because everyone knew the job. Everyone was quite professional. I wouldn't have wanted to go to the Yates's and work with Rob, who's just come from South, so he's got his door badge. Likes a scuffle, wears a polo jacket, loves it. I don't want to work with him.
It's so and so from what estate, and you're like, oh, I don't fucking want to work with him.
And you're like, so I was quite lucky, but it come to a point where I was earning decent money on the door, and I thought I need to concentrate on being in the army a bit more here, because you can easily get waylaid with money and distractions and stuff like that. And I thought, no, I need to.
I ended up doing a bad thing as well, where because even though I took a load of roids and speed and stuff like that, I didn't drink. I never really have drank. And I was very trustworthy. I like to think I still am, but it's probably not for me to say. So I ended up doing things for people. I ended up moving things for people and stuff like that, because if you get known to be a trusted person, you're not a smackhead, you're not an idiot, you can be trusted. And that's the fork in the road. I think it like sliding doors. I think like my life could have gone in a very different direction then, because I had to move completely out of that environment. But I see them people now sometimes still, and I'm like, bloody hell, you take something from one side of the city to another and just drop it off somewhere for someone, and then they'd give you some money.
And the amount of money in it, massive money in it, for not much work, and you think, oh, it's quite attractive.
Yeah, but you're always looking over your shoulder. That's what I found. When people said, oh, yeah, Pete helps out so-and-so, or Pete moves things for so-and-so. Yeah. But, yeah, how many people have you seen? Because, I mean, I know some of these stories are salacious and have been inflated for the purposes of books and things like that. But, I mean, Ant, in one of his books, he used to speak about working on the doors and life could have gone in two directions. Some of that's true. Some of it's probably bullshit. The same with all of us, to be fair. But, like, how many people... Because you've come out, you've decided to go into the fire service. And I don't want to finish talking about your career, but, like... Yeah. That could have gone in many different directions as well. Because people ex-military lose themselves.
They do. And I think I still speak to people now. I spoke to one of my friends, and she's a female who's just left the military. And she probably did 23 years. And she doesn't like civilians. She'll openly say she doesn't like civilians. She doesn't like working with civilians. She doesn't like the banter of civilians. I'm like, mate, you've got to adjust. Because at the end of the day, you're a civilian before you join. You get paid to do a job. And my aspect on the military is I've always had decent civvy friends. I've always been grounded from wherever I've been based. And I've always kept that bit of a conduit. And you get paid, and it's a job. It's a different job, sent to fire service, but it's still a job. And you throw your life into it, but you've still got to expect that it's a job.
Yeah, but it's not like any other job. It's such an immersive experience. And I know everyone will say that about their job, but it's not like, oh, well, I worked in a factory for 20 years and I managed to recalibrate. Yeah, but you went home every day and you didn't, you are immersed in the military. You live every day.
Yeah. I found when I left, you sort of, my wife thought about it, you feel a little bit lost. Even though I was looking up to go straight into another uniform service with pretty much no overlap. I had them myself. And I used all my leave and then started fire service training. So it was like I just changed roles, really. But when I left, and I was probably in charge of at one stage, about 100 people I was managing. And then you feel like you lost a little bit of identity. You've lost that camaraderie. You think, where do I go from here? All my mates are all over the country. I feel a bit had to sort of get used to. You do have to settle back into the normal society. Standing in the pub and listening to your mate moan how much plasterboards have gone up, and you start,
fucking hell. That's what I'm saying, mate. That's what I feel for your friend. And I'm not sitting here pretending to ever have done any time in the military or any of that bollocks. But I don't know what's wrong with me, because I have that and I've never done I played at some quite high levels in professional sport and did a few things like that, but never in the same context as you. But I really struggle on a day-to-day basis. And I'm like, just echoing what your friend said, like, and you must have had it when you came out and you sat next to people and they're talking and you're like, you're really shit. You think you're good. You're shit at your job. Like,
I had it on my, I come back from my last Afghanistan, my third Afghanistan. I came back and you do like a decompression, but it's fucking dog shit. So you basically got to sit in Cyprus to get pissed for a day.
That's what I'm told.
You watch like a fucking shit cabaret singer or a magician. It's crap, right? It's crap. You end up scuffling with everyone because all your little fights come out, which is good for that.
Yeah. That must be the person that runs that base must be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. And I remember coming back and I remember standing. I was on leave, so they give you like 8 weeks off because you've had no leave. So I might have 6 to 8 weeks. I remember being in Tesco's. I thought, I need some stuff. I was living in Towton at the time, in Nottingham. So I remember being in Tesco, the massive Tesco's there, stood in the queue with baskets, and the two women in front were moaning about, I don't know what they were moaning about. It started raining outside, and they were moaning about they had to do this, they had to watch the car. And I remember I could feel, I thought, I'm going to explode. My fucking head's going to explode. So I just put my basket down, and I had to leave. I had to just basically go out, because I could walk. I just walked home and had to go in and just lay on my bed. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But in my head, I thought,
No, mate.
I'm going to explode. And then a couple of mates said, do you want to go on piston out? I was like, nah. I said, if I got a piston out, I'd end up doing something stupid. So I just basically just did my own decompression sitting in my house. I got Tesco's delivered because I thought, I can't go in again. And in my head, I was like, what's wrong with me? But is that 1 minute I was in Afghanistan, 48 hours later maximum, I'm in Tesco's wanting to beat two old ladies up because they're talking shit. And you think, this is not right. I need to take myself out of this situation.
But there is ways to like, we're talking about value of association there, and it's probably a good time to bring up Jamie Peacock. So I know you've spent a bit of time with him, trained at his gym and stuff like that. And I think there's a similar analogy of people like that, people that work in professional sport, astronauts, Olympians is always a classic one. I think they have actual post-Olympian programs now to help people transition back into normal life. Footballers, you know, once you've been to the fucking moon, or once you've been paid to do this thing, or once you've been at the precipice, you've been at the tip of the sword of human potential in your specific sphere of whatever that might be. That's a mighty height of personal standards, of daily tempo, and also you're relied to be somewhere. And again, this is why a lot of people transition to fire service, why it's a totally different fucking standard, and we can maybe talk about that at some point. But it's like, I'm relying on you to be somewhere at 7 a.m. I need you, and you're part of a thing that matters. But I think it's really hard for people if they can't find that association with other people. And again, a bunch of people see this manifest in some of the SAS stuff where someone goes and starts their own thing, or like Bear Grylls does the thing, or they try and fabricate and create another high-performing environment. I mean, when's the first time you met Jamie? Because he's an interesting fellow.
It was just, my friend runs a gym up here, Peak Fitness, which is about 3 miles from my house. It's great because I could run to the gym, train, and run home. It's a great gym. It's got outdoor pools, got everything. And he runs a protein company, Effective Supplements, and they sponsor Jamie. And he's training to do that, what's that horrible event where you do an exercise and then you do, I can't remember what the name of it is, you do a K-run. It's an event, a K-run. I can't think what it's
called.
High Rocks,
is it? No.
That's it. That awful. It's High Rock.
Oh, yeah.
He's competing in Birmingham.
That's cool.
Thinking it next couple of weeks. So he's at High Rock. So he's training for that. So they wanted him to do some promo. There's the wife. Look, she's just come in. They wanted him to do some promo for that.
He's all good. Don't worry about it.
Sorry about that. She's just been at the gym. That's her.
Good girl.
But yeah, so I met Jamie doing that. So he works for my friend's gym, and they sponsor him. And they get him to do some. He does mentoring, he does coaching, but they also give him a load of supplements because he's still a fucking machine.
Fuck yeah.
And we were talking, I was lucky enough to have a good chat with him actually in a brew, because he's a really interesting bloke. And he was saying when he was a pro rugby player, he was probably like 19 stone. He was a fucking unit. If you've seen a picture of him his day, he was shredded, but a unit as well. And now he said he's lost probably 30 kilos. 20, 30 kilos, because he doesn't need that weight. And as you get older, so, and he's shredded. I've seen him on social media yesterday, put a picture on. He's in really good shape, and he's probably about 16 odd stone now. And he did a run through of the High Rocks, what was going to be the competition. And we was obviously setting the stuff up for him and getting things ready. Man's a machine.
Yeah.
And he's so driven. And we chatted about when he left rugby and what he thought he was going to do. And he couldn't get his head round what he was going to do. So he said he got into coaching, got into mentoring. He's really enjoyed going into that. He does talks to, because he loves Leeds, still lives around Leeds, so he does open talks about how to transition from being that top grade A sportsman to being normal effectively.
Because that's actually, even for the people that don't make it, that's a massive, like the sort of cemetery of, or the wasteland of people that don't quite make, like people you'll know from don't quite make pro level boxing or don't quite make pro level rugby. Will Fodden is a friend of mine. We had him on the podcast recently. Didn't quite make it to that top level. We had James Bull. James Bull is a station manager in one of the fire services somewhere. I can't remember. We had him on the podcast as he was the first guy to do the marathon des Sables, with like a 10 kilo pack on or some shit like that. And he was just shy of becoming a high level rugby player, and then decided to go fire service and seeking that same high, because like you say, Jamie does coaching. I coach people for about 10 years. It's really hard, not because like you're better than anybody or anything like that, but you don't want to coach normal people. You want to coach athletes. You don't want to coach someone that says, oh, I'm struggling to get up on Monday. And you're like, fucking hell, that should be the fucking easy bit. You know, I want to train you how to get from 85% to 100%. I'm not trying to help you fucking calorie count and bollocks, or, you know, like you struggling in the shit job that you've got and you want a slightly less shit job. That stuff's real, but that's the mass population that really need the help. But is someone like you, and I'm blowing smoke up your ass, or someone like Jamie, you're almost, maybe your aspirations and your version of high performing is so fucking far away from theirs.
It is sometimes. I've got my wife will vouch for it. I've got massive high expectations of everyone and everything. So if we have to do something, I've got to try and do it the best I can. If I do a shit job, I get the ump of it.
Does that alienate you from friends and social environments and things, though? Because like if your partner,
it can do.
My partner's got some friends that she loves spending time with. I just can't spend time with them because they just fucking boil my piss, and I'm just like, oh fucking hell, I can't be around this. But I don't want to be a dick, and I also don't want to ruin situations for my. Have you got children?
I've got 2 stepkids.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin environments for them. Like I always think like. You want to fan a kid's flame when they're interested in something, but my kid will be interested in something. And then I'll like get a fucking audiobook on it, and then I'll research it, and I'll say, do I want to do this? And I've made this mistake probably 2 or 3 times. And
You've
I'll
got
ruin it for them. You know, it's like you've poured a fucking bucket of fuel on their little candle and you've fucking put it out. You ruined it for them. And I'm really guilty. I'm terrible. I'm just being honest, like, and I hate myself for it. But also, I don't know, like, how do you navigate that? Because, you know, I've got one of my kids who wants to be fitter, and he's a skinny teenager, as I was, you know. But I didn't have social media and shit back then. I remember getting, I think it was a massive Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography of bodybuilding or some shit.
Encyclopedia of bodybuilding.
I fucking got it here somewhere, mate. It's fucking around. I bet I could find it. But anyway, and it was like, right, put your feet up on a chair, and this is an incline press up, and you do 200 of them a day, and then you tuck your feet under the sofa in your bedroom, and then you get the little York dumbbells from Argos with fucking sand in them, you know, and you just do all that shit every day, you know, and you couldn't afford anything, so I'd be rice and tuna and boring shit like that. But people were so trained on the quick fix, you know, Amazon delivery. I want it fucking tomorrow. I want it now. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to fucking wait. I want Netflix. I don't want to wait for the thing to come out this weekend. I want to binge it all.
People aren't happy.
Instant gratification.
People aren't happy to see results. They're not happy to put hard work in. So if you say, right, it is a 12-week training program. If they start training, you tweak the diet a bit. Because if you do a massive diet change, no one sticks to it and they fucking fail. So tweak the diet, like little changes, surmount some big results, don't they? So you try and change the diet, do this, that, do the other. And they go, I don't see any change. I don't feel any fitter. You're like, you've been doing it 2 weeks. You've got to implement it in your lifestyle.
Yes.
This is for the rest of your life.
It's forever.
And they go, how long do I have to stay on this diet for? It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle change. Yeah, and the amount of times, because my wife's, she used to competitively bodybuild. And the strictness of my missus' diet, when you compare it to, I like to eat clean, was just so extreme. You can see why bodybuilders struggle. Because the extremity of the body dysmorphia is just massive.
Yeah, you've taken that so far, but also to help me understand, and I'll layer this with echoes of my own mistakes as well. Like when you take it too far. So an example for me, I say I took masses of steroids when I was younger. Did international strongman for a little bit. My body was saying stop in a few things, and again, I'm not going to reflect on your misses. I don't know your misses at all, but bodybuilders are an example of it. Sometimes there are things in your life, in your body, that are saying this is too much, and you also do see it in the military. People get adrenal fatigue, they over-index, and they damage their bodies. Chris was saying to me when he was on the podcast, he says there wasn't It wasn't really a training program when you're in the military. You just threw everything at it, including the kitchen
got
sink.
hammered.
And just so many people develop musculoskeletal injuries and long-term challenges because we idolize the stuff that we did in the military. And that wasn't really structured. It was just designed to fucking break you as a human being.
It is.
See, I had a prolapse disc in my back. I tore my pec off. I had injections in my left shoulder 3 or 4 times because I'd fucked my rotator cuff up. Like, talk to me about going too far with stuff, because you seem like you function physically well. Mentally, I mean, we didn't really close the loop on that boxing conversation. You don't seem to have any damage long term from being punched in the face. I'm talking mentally, like you seem to have your shit together.
I had a couple of brain scans because they're quite good like that in the military. So they check your brain scan every now and periodically. The doctors say, look, you just need to go for a CT scan just to make sure everything's all right. You're not getting any grey areas. And a couple of my friends who had a lot more fights than me, one lad had about 300 odd fights, and he was Commonwealth champion. He was like British champion. He come second in the World Championships. He got told to stop because he had grey areas coming in his brain, and his speech was starting to be a little bit affected by it.
That's it.
And so I was quite lucky in that respect. And then I fell down the stairs drunk in Newcastle, split the back of my head open as you do, and I went to hospital and had another CT scan, and that was probably about 10 years ago. So I was still all right. So I've lasted all right. I've had it. So I had a free CT scan, but I've been stapled in the back of the head.
How do you keep yourself operating all right now? As I say, physically, you seem to have a lot of your shit together. How do you strike that balance and still want to have adventures? Because you still have adventures professionally. You're involved in some cool stuff.
Physically, I'm lucky that my wife's into training, because I think if you had a partner who didn't train, it could make it quite difficult, because I spend a lot of time training. I try and probably do a cardio session and a weight session every day, and I'm pretty shit at resting. I don't have much rest. I'm poor for resting. Even if I go, I'll rest tomorrow, I'll still cycle to work, and then hammer the cycle to work, that's 7 miles into work, and I'll try and beat the time. You can't, and you think, that's just my commute, that's not phys, but it is. And I think if I don't train, and this is all vouch for it, that I can go quite ratty, moody. I can be quite snappy with the kids. I can be snappy with everyone, really. And so I need to I think training's good for my mental health as well as my physical health, massively.
That's what I always say. It would be a discipline for me to stop doing it. Like when I get injured,
I don't think I could.
It's hard for me not to do the thing. It's a mental crutch. It's a bit of a trick. Like I don't push. I never push myself to train. And also I say to people about the push versus the pull when I used to coach people. It's like you need to get over that inertia where it becomes a pull. Like you're pulled to do it every morning. It's like a box you need to tick in your head. Otherwise, you can't function very well.
I find it harder not to train than to train.
Do you think that's sustainable long term, though? I mean, like, in terms of what Jamie does or what he doesn't do, because our bodies just do break down. Because it's hard to coast a session. I think where Jamie is
at the minute, he can't sustain it because he's training for that high rocks and he's training for a competition. I think he's going to rest. When we spoke after, he's going to have a few weeks off rest, and he'll just do some tick over sessions. But you can't stay at that. You cannot stay at that peak. You can't because you'll plateau and you'll just eventually come off. You'll end up crescendoing down because you can't stick to that. I try and listen to my body as well. Where 10 years ago I wouldn't. Like every now and again, shoulder tweaks. I'll go a bit lighter and stuff, and my lower back alert, or at the minute I keep getting a bit of cramp in my hamstring, and you think, I'll be all right, but I'll stretch a bit more and I'll foam roller a bit more and I'll look after myself a little bit more. So you do start to ease off a little bit. But I've still got that where some of my civilian friends started running with me, and funny enough, they don't run with me anymore because they don't stick at it. It's like seem like they've got no discipline. They'll go, I'll run for you for a bit, and then they're bored of that idea. They'll do something else, and or they'll feign an injury. Where I've just run since I was 15, 16. I still run quite a lot now, and I think it's just ingrained into you.
I'm trying to get better at listening to my body, because echoing back to, obviously, I went on this SAS thing the other year. I'd gone from being really huge, squatting 340 something kilos, losing a load of weight, picking up a load of cardio, doing a load of stuff, and I had tendinopathy in both my knees, and it had annoyed me for ages. But then obviously I decided to do the show thing, so I've been doing a load of ruck running and loads of high volume training. And my knees were just hurting more and more and more. And then it was obviously an innocuous, pathetic little fucking moment of wrong angle, wrong thing, snap, kneecap comes off the fucking thing, and those moments like that. And I like to think that I learned from them, but I said I learned from it when I popped my back, and then I said I learned when I tore my pec off. And I don't know what that is, because I want to still be doing shit when I'm 60 years age. You know, I want to be climbing Ben Nevis when I'm 70, and I want to be having those fun adventures then. But I find it hard to get that balance of being a savage and enjoying my life and holding myself to a high standard and not over-indexing, because rest days are just nigh on impossible.
You're just on borrowed time with your body, aren't you? And I think if you do it too much, you end up fucking. You see some people. There's a bloke who trains at our gym. He went to Olympia, like Worlds. He used to be a pro bodybuilder. He used to be able to squat 500 pounds, you know, like ridiculous 500-600 pounds. And you speak to him now, and he's still in great shape. He's probably in his 70s, and he's still in ridiculously really good shape. He's a really short, stocky fella. His knees, his shoulders, both rotator cuffs are gone. Both his knees are gone. Lower back's gone. And he's had I think because of all the gear, he's had about 2 or 3 heart attacks. He's had to have stents fitted. And I said, would you change anything, Ian? And he fucking no. He said no.
That's what Ronnie told me. You look at Ronnie, don't you? He's had his whole spine fused. He's walking on crutches. They lifted heavier and more often. And you're like, mate, is that just a thing you're saying? Because to say something different would require you to admit that you fucked it up. Like, you know, one of my kids might have grandkids or whatever, even if they don't. I still want to be able to do stuff. I don't want to be the guy that I'm just sitting on the beach. I'm not coming in the water. I can't do the whatever fucking wakeboarding today. You know, I'm just going to sit here. That would be super shit.
Yeah, I'd find that really difficult, just watching from the sidelines and not getting involved.
100%.
But what I've tried to do now, because there's still some of my mates play a bit of football and all this, I try and stay away from any sport that I haven't trained for now.
Yeah,
because
I try to stay away from rugby or football because someone else, I'm putting trust in someone else. Like you might just be that Saturday warrior who fucking drinks too much and maliciously is going to come and try and hurt me on a Saturday.
It's that adage, isn't it? Don't play sport to get fit. Get fit to play sport. You need to train for that specific sport, because I think I can still run a decent 6-mile pace. I can put weight on my back and still run weight on. I still bench 240 kilos. I still lift all right. And then you think, I'll go and play 5-a-side football with fat lads on the ball. And then the next thing, my knees popped out because I haven't played football for 10 years, and I'm still in my simple brain. I'm going to give 100%, and I'm going to try and run around that pitch as fast as I can, lunging for balls, and my muscles are going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'll end up not being able to walk for a week or do something. So I think, no, I stick to what I do. I run in a straight line, I lift weights, and I punch bags, and then do a bit more. I've tried to do a bit more functional stuff now, because I'm otherwise.
Yeah, I've started doing weird shit with kettlebells over the last few years, which I find really difficult, but really
kettlebells
fun.
Are weird. Kettlebells are weird. But
I do feel like a bit of a wanker sometimes when I'm in the gym doing weird shit. But I got over myself about 10 years ago.
As long as you're not using the machines all wrong, where you see them people upside down on the machine, you're like, what are you doing there? Yeah. But the bloke who owns the gym, he used to compete at a competitive level, and he's really into like muscular science and stuff like that. And he's really, really clever at that sort of stuff. And I was saying that I get knee pain, especially my right one. I dislocated in parachuting when I was younger, and I've parachuted my whole career, and it does take a toll on your knees. And he was saying if you tried the backwards walking, you know, so you pull the sled. And I tell you
what, have you seen knees over toes guy?
He sent me the link to it, and I tell you what, I just did some yesterday. So I finished off my session. I just did some kettlebell squats, and then in between that, I just do 30 seconds on a treadmill, but you know, just pushing backwards with it off. And I tell you what, the difference, you can feel it instantly.
Yeah, that is exactly the training I had to do after I snapped my patella tendon.
Oh, yeah.
So all of that, and again, just putting knee over toe, so like being on a wedge block, holding a kettlebell or something just in front of you and allowing your knee to protrude far over your toe. It works in an entirely different part of the quad. Walking backwards with the sled, walking backwards on a treadmill, all of this shit. I use I've got like a wobble board thing.
Yeah.
Where I'll do like a single-legged half squat, and then almost like imagine you're standing at the edge of a pond and you've dropped your fucking thing in it and you need to lean out with your toe to bring it back. That is really hard and really humbling to do because, again, you don't. There's a bit of an ego thing you have to swallow there as well. You're like, oh, well, I want to get in the fucking squat rack and stick 200 kilos on when these young fucking 18-year-olds are in there doing that. And I'm there with me fucking kettlebell on me wobble board, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's Pete. He used to be fit and strong, but now he's fucking weird.
Look at him. He's got a kettlebell in one hand.
He's got a fucking, an elastic band in the other one and a fucking whatever, yoga ball, and he's doing some weird shit. But I think of it like a map. Like there's grey spots in the map. And then as soon as you stop exploring those grey areas of the map, you'll never get them back. No. You'll just never get those grey areas back. You've got to keep going there because then you've lost that range of mobility and you'll never get it again.
It's that use it or lose it, isn't it? If you don't, you stop. When people go, the saddest thing when people go, oh, I used to run and I used to train. Well, why don't you now? Oh, I used to. I used to do this. Well, just do it now. And then you wonder why.
You don't stop training because you get old. You get old because you stop training.
And you wonder why you're suffering with your mental health. You've put weight on. Yeah. You're struggling at home in your relationship because things have changed. You're not as fit. You're not as virile. You're not doing this. Mm-hmm. There's so many things around. Like even just fitness of getting out walking. I think lockdown, the only good thing to come out of lockdown is people got more invested in themselves where they think, right, for me, I need to go out walking. I need to do this. I need to start running. A lot of people got into thinking, I need to lose a bit of fucking weight. Yeah. I need to eat a little bit better because I'm sitting at home now overanalyzing everything, and you can look at stuff and go, fuck, I'm making a mistake here.
Yeah, 100%.
And the amount
I need to get my shit squared away.
Everyone's only like borderline alcoholics. I'd come in because I was still going out to shift and Mrs. working from our kids' room. You'd sit in the garden and go, shall we have a drink? I may as well. And you think, just get the music on. You end up having a home party because you can. And you're like, oh yeah. You're like, this is not good.
Every day's a Prosecco day, baby. It's crazy, isn't it? It's so fucking weird. Yeah. There's a good thing I will have asked you about there as well, actually. So, like, when women talk about menopause, and there's a big growing thing in the States, and people like Joe Rogan and stuff speak about it all the time, this TRT, this testosterone replacement therapy. Now, it has been around for a lot longer than we think it has, but only, so HRT, as people refer to it with women, hormone replacement therapy. So for people that are totally familiar, women, they happen as early as 30, but between 30 and 50, usually in their 40s, they go through menopause. So the reason it's so noticeable for women is their estrogen drops off a cliff, basically really fast, and they notice these hot flushes, the changes in the biology, the body acts differently. So then they go on hormone replacement therapy. It's been around for decades. But for men, it decreases very slowly over time. Sometimes from your mid-30s, sometimes a little bit later. But basically, it just starts to drop off so slowly that you don't really notice it until you have a little bit less drive. You're obviously less virile. It's harder for your body to hold muscle. And there's a big growing swell of people talking about TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. Now, for people that will go, oh, you're just taking steroids. Well, yeah, I mean, basically, it is a very similar product to that. But when you've been used to being Superman in your life, who the fuck wants to be Clark Kent? But how do we differentiate between that? I mean, there's a company in the UK, we were going to have them on the podcast, actually. I can't remember what they're bloody called now. But anyway, there's loads of different companies. I think it's called OptiHealth, or Optimail. Optimail is the company. What do you think about all of that? Because I've done so much damage to my body in my 20s. I think, I think I'm good. I'll do it when I'm in my mid-40s maybe, because I want to keep doing this stuff for longer, but I know I've done damage to my body. So I think... What do you think about all that stuff?
I think there's two sides to that coin, isn't there? I think where you can. I would say from my perspective, I'm 46 now. I still feel strong. I know I've got a lot of testosterone because I still fucking lose my temper quite quickly. I still get angry about fucking things quite quickly. My missus is not bad. But I can still think, right, I can still lift, I can still do that. But if it comes come to a stage where I felt like I was dropping off a cliff and I had no energy. I felt lethargic all the time. You can see why you would take it. But then there's the coin, you get those people that the fucking random bloke in the pub who goes, oh, have you seen this? I think it's going to be a wonder drug and an answer to everything, where it's not. If you've never been that sort of person, it's not going to make you that person. It's not going to all of a sudden send you into Dorian Yates territory.
Yeah, but if you're a high-level athlete or if you've been doing something for a very long time, it'll theoretically allow you to do that thing for longer. And I think it will be a massive thing. I think loads of people will do it.
It's because a lot of people do their self-blood tests now, aren't they? Like the Wellman stuff and the Newman stuff, and they're doing all that. And people are more aware of men's like ailments, as it were, where you are short in, say, vitamin D, and people having their vitamin D shots now, aren't they? Where you can go and get those shots. And
vitamin D, they're having those intravenous bags where people can have vitamins and all that sort of shit. I'd be up for trying that. We're so behind in the UK.
They're even doing the stem cell stuff. Doing the stem cell stuff in a
We can't do stem cells in the UK yet, can we, though?
No.
Or can we? Mate, I can't wait for that to come over. Because that would be incredible for the injuries I've done to my body. There's a load of firefighters in the US. We had Matt Chan. He was second in the CrossFit Games. He's a firefighter. I forget where he is in America. But anyway, he has stem cells every year. And he's like, 100%. Why would I not? It makes sense. The science is accessible to me. But it is.
He's had double knee replacement in America, and he had stem cell treatment on that.
Yeah.
And he said it's amazing. He's given him another 10 years on his knees.
But some people feel weird about it because, you start getting into this drug world and people think, oh, you're a drug, and I was a drug addict, so I think it's the way we administer it, because you can take vitamin D tablets and it's like, well, you're taking a tablet. And like, if we went down the pub, this is the whole drugs conversation, because people say, oh, I don't take any drugs. I'm like, but I saw you drinking alcohol yesterday. That's a drug. Yeah. That's just a social recreational drug. Everyone's decided we're going to drink alcohol. It's okay.
Stronger adverse effects as well.
Not just on you personally, but on the bloody society. If you get pissed out your head, you might go and beat your missus up. You might go and have a fight outside. You might do whatever. If whenever, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, probably longer, we decided that marijuana was the societal drug of choice. If you and I sat and got stoned out of our heads, we'd probably go and fucking buy a load of Doritos from the shop and have a giggle or something. I don't know. But if you and I sat and got drunk in your lounge, you might knock me out, basically. That's what will eventually happen. But we might fall out. We might go outside and start throwing bricks at cars or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But there's the way in which you administer it, because you drink that and because you smoke that. But if we were down at the pub and people say, "Oh, Pete, do you want to drink?" No, I don't drink. You're right. I've got some stuff with me. I'm just gonna fucking have some heroin, or I'm just gonna whatever. It'd be seen as a totally different thing. And I wonder if it's because with TRT and with things like that, you have to inject it. When you hear, if we play word association game, I say needles, you say drug addict. It's that, isn't it? So it's a weird thing. And needles are scary. Even though I injected myself for years, I don't like needles. And you see them at jobs and they're poked down hydrant tank lids and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, there's drug addicts around here. It's a societal weird thing, isn't it? I don't know. It's interesting to see where that whole thing goes.
I wouldn't be adverse to not taking it. If I felt like my performance was dropping off and I wasn't the person I was, I'd probably be looking at taking it.
Because it's so slow, would you even know? This is what I'm saying. Would you not just attribute it to old age? Because you're in shape now, you're 45. This is probably going to happen to you when you're closing in on 60, when you're 50. I don't know. And you might just go, well, I'm an old bloke now, so I shouldn't. But are you really at 55? I mean, people are living older every day now,
Because I want to try and stay in a job for as long as I can. Because I'm not in the fire service pension, so I'm not pension side. I'm just doing it because I enjoy the job. I love it.
Why? Is that because you couldn't take your military one over, or your military was just so good it wasn't worth it, or?
I get a military pension now, so I'm a pensioner. So
isn't that weird?
I know, it's bizarre. I still find it weird. But I get my full military pension at 55. It goes up quite a bit, and for the fire service pension, I'm nowhere near getting 30 years yet because I couldn't do it till 70. So I thought I'd rather pay more off my mortgage now. If a decent lifestyle now.
Why did you want to transition into the service? Let's close the loop on that. Why not something else? Because it's a weird thing to get into.
It's a good question, though. because, excuse me, when I was leaving the army, I got lots of job offers, either working abroad, doing close protection stuff, or I've got a bomb disposal qualification. The second in Afghanistan was an EOD operator. So we went out there doing bomb disposal. So I'm qualified in that. So when I was leaving, I got offered a demining contract in South Sudan on about 10 grand a month. I thought,
where the fuck do people get these jobs? Come on, I don't see them on fucking Indeed.com. Where do people know this shit?
It exists in that military loop and like the East.
Do they post them on the billboards in barracks?
No,
or what?
it's just all your mates. So your mate knows you're leaving, and someone will ring you up and say,
yeah, but if you're a complete loser and you've not got any mates in the military, do you reckon there's people that have that and they never get told about any of the cool jobs because they're a bit of a dick?
If you're a bit of a dick, no one wants to work with you. So
exactly. They have to work with you when you're in the military, but then when you leave, they're like, no, I'm not telling fucking Dilksy.
The door just closes.
Yeah.
You've spoken to people. You've heard people talk about me. You've had that conversation before. But a lot of people that I got offered a job in South Sudan, but a few lads, me and the missus spoke, and I said, I don't want to live out of a bag again, a month on, month off sort of thing. And then I got offered a job in Libya, working in an ops room in Libya doing that. I got offered some close protection stuff in London. And I thought, do I want to do that? If I needed to, like monetary-wise, I would have done.
I was going to say, it must have been a lot better paid than the fire service, to be fair.
But I thought, no, I had that inkling as a kid that everyone wants to be a firefighter. And so I was like, you know what? And a couple of lads, because I was training the reserves when I was leading, so I was like the training officer for the reserves. And I was running their training. And a couple of the reserve lads were firefighters. And they said, we're recruiting. So I was like, no, I thought, I'm not going to get in, I'm 40. I'll have a go. And I got in. And
I bet you pissed all over some of them.
Yeah, a little bit. I got the silver hat.
Did you? Good man.
Big proper creep, you know. So, yes, sir, I'll polish your shoes, sir. So, when I got in, I found it. But it's been great because I still get that, like, a lot of people struggle when they leave the army. They don't get that adrenaline. They don't get that fix of a bit of excitement where you leave the army, I've done some proper cool shit in my career where you think that is just unbelievable. Like fast roping out helicopters, jumping out of planes, kicking down doors, doing all the cool stuff. And I think, where am I going to replicate that? I can't find this. And then the fire service, I drive now, so you're driving a massive 17-ton truck through streets, and that's cool. When you go posing, you're on the wrong side of the road, it's cool. Yeah. You get some cool jobs. And what I also found is that I've spent a whole career, spent 24 years helping people overseas, and we spoke about it earlier on. It's nice to actually help people in my own community, and you actually feel like you're making a massive difference. You feel like you make such a big difference, even if it's just as simple as putting the smoke alarm up in someone's house. You could go into an old lady's house. She might not have had any company for the last 2 weeks. And you sit and chat to her for 10 minutes. Right? Ask her if she needs anything done around the house. You obviously check her house and her safety, but you're giving her a bit of peace of mind, a bit of company, have a chat with her. And that's so rewarding to me, little things like that. I find it great.
Yeah. You can just drop in and out of people's lives. And it's like you just add in 1% gains all over the place. Do you know what I mean? That's what I like about it. We have a very weird moral standing, and we're a strange part of society that I really, really like. You know, people have different ideas of what the fire service is. And for me, I think it's our job to protect that. You know, it was here long before us and it will be here long after us. But leave it better than you found it. Do you know what I mean? And also, because we have so many incredible people like yourself from different backgrounds, different careers, from military, from the care sector, ex-teachers, whatever. We've got some really, really awesome people that come in and add a real random diversity to the role. And that's what I like, seeing people coming in at different ages as well. Because they used to just come in from when they were kids and they didn't really have any diversity and they didn't bring anything else into the job. So I do like that we're having older people join now.
We've got a couple of teachers who have just joined the job, a couple of ex-teachers, and they bring a really good perspective to the job. And then we've got one lad who used to work for the council, but he specialised in welfare of the council and like people from deprived communities welfare. So he's involves us in that a lot more. So we run clubs now. So on a Saturday, and we've got like a few different cultural minorities in Hull now. So we invite different cultures. So just last weekend we had a big group of Muslim families come to the fire station, and it broadens their horizons a bit because sometimes they'll live in their own little area. Mm-hmm. It's great for them to come on the station, see what we do, and then instantly we said, "How's it home fire safety?" And they said, "Oh, because the landlords sometimes don't look after them the best." So we've got a lot more interaction with them now. So we've been around checking their properties, checking everything's okay, giving them smoke alarms, giving them advice on like better fire safety, and then they know they can talk to us. So they feel that there's that jointed effort. So that's more rewarding as well. That's a lot better things to do.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you can travel the whole world like you have, far more than I have, but then you realise how little you know about your own society, your own community. You're like, you just spend an hour with someone, you're like, bloody hell, that's weird.
Like I've lived in Hull now for 8 or 9 years, but even now I'm right in the central fire station. Driving, I haven't got a clue where I'm going. I'm like, I thought I lived here, but all these little side streets, I don't know where I'm going. And we've got a lot of high rise. I think we've got 17 high rise. We've got 17 residential high rise and about 25 business high rise. So we've got quite a lot of high rise for quite a small city, really.
Yeah, that's some scary stuff. We just had a guy called Peter Apps. His episode comes out in 3 or 4 weeks' time. We just uploaded it on the system. And he wrote a book called Show Me the Bodies, How We Let Grenfell Happen. And fucking hell, he tells some great stories from both sides, from industry as a housing specialist, but then also he overlays it with an incident debrief with the timeline and people trapped in different places. And yeah, that's a real growing concern and awareness piece that a lot of people across the UK, because these buildings were safe-ish when they were first built, but they're 34 years old now, and they've been fucked about with so much. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I also wanted to ask you about the balance that the fire service gives you, because when you're in the military, you were just military through and through, cut you in half, it fucking says it straight down the middle. But you still do a lot of other cool stuff. So this probably is a nice transition as well into when did you get approached for the whole SAS thing? Because you probably do 4 days on, 4 days off, same as everyone else does. So the fire service is full of people with a side hustle. It's full of people with other adventures, hobbies, passions, stuff that they do.
Yeah, when I was still in the army at the time, and it was Anne to approach me. I used to work with Anne for a long time. And then we've known each other for probably 25 years. So I got a text saying, "Do you want to come on TV?" I remember speaking to Miss about it. I was like, "No, I just got a random text off of me." She was like, "Fuck off, you're not going on TV, you're full of shit. You got a head like a light bulb, who's going to have you on TV?" So I was like, she said, "I never said that." She fucking did. But she probably said something worse, actually. Like a balloon with a face painted on it. But and I said, "Look," texting back, I said, "Really appreciate it, mate, but I'm still in, and it's a conflict of interest. You can't do it the same thing."
Expand on that for me, because a lot of people said no to that. We've had a couple of people I've spoke with, people that were approached beforehand, I think, that nearly did the lead thing. And it's weird.
I was still serving. I said, "Look, I can't do it because the army will fucking go mad if I do army-related program while I'm serving in it. It's a big no-no. You get pretty much booted out for that." And then I don't know how he knew that I was out, or how he knew, because I went on social media or nothing. It was literally, I was on my course, and I got another text. One of the producers from Channel 4 is going to ring you from Minnow. One of the producers from Minnow is going to ring you, and we want you to call the show. So I was like, "Mate, how do you know that I'm out now?" He goes, "I know you're out. I know you're a firefighter." So we went across to Manchester to have a meeting with Dan, and then I went down to London to have a couple of meetings at Minnow, and then had to do a bit of screen testing, which is bizarre, is it? As you know, you had to put makeup on my head so I didn't have a big shine on my head. So I went through that, and then I got offered the job doing it, which was bizarre because I took Ant through his interrogation when he went through selection. I took him through his interrogation. So when he went through SBF, so
you obviously made an impression then.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and so he was like, "Oh no, just on that." I know, just the person who got for this. So it went from there, and I've just filmed. We've just been out abroad filming for a month. So I've just done 5 years now.
Mate, that is such a weird thing to be involved in.
I know.
Was there any moment where you thought, no, this ain't shit for me, I'm going to look like a dickhead? Because some people have that. And there is, let's be totally honest, I've spoken with Jason
totally right,
and a few others, when you go on and you're playing soldier. Well, I'm playing soldier. You're entertaining members of the public, and there'll be a whole raft of people in the military going, fucking hell, Dilks, you're doing that shit. That's not fucking real. It's all bollocks.
But when I first got the gig, it was bizarre because obviously we filmed up in Scotland, so I got a flight up to Scotland, got to the hotel. I knew Ant anyway. I'd worked with Billy, I'd met Foxy, glancingly in our path in our careers. I didn't really know how old he was at the time, but Ant made me feel really well because I knew Billy. So instantly you think, back in the old job sort of thing.
Billy's a fucking legend. I'm surprised they didn't have Billy as the original lead. With the great, Ant's really cool, and Ant sells it well, and he's got the banter about him.
I think that's why, because Ant's marketable for the female market as well.
I didn't realise how much of a legend Billy was until I went down the Billy rabbit hole.
Oh, mate, Billy's the nails as well. He's a fucking hard bastard as well, Billy is. And
big into his boxing as well.
Yeah, he used to be. Me and Billy have got some good. When we're off camera and we're off audio, I'll tell you some stories about me and Billy on Piers. It's not funny. Okay. But he still gets arrested now, I think. But when I got up to Rassay, and I remember they said, you'll get your call sheet as you do, and it was all still bizarre. And I got permission from our chief fire officer, who was a chief at the time. So I said, I'm going to go on TV, Chris. He said, you're not bringing the fire service into dispute. I said, no, it's nothing to do with the fire service. I've got permission from the military because they write off and get permission from that. I said, I explained what it was. He goes, I fucking love that programme. What part are you doing? I said, I'll pop up at the end and I interrogate people. Okay, nice one. Just send me an email. Sorry, just send me an email. And obviously when it had aired, I got an email going, Jesus, you're a bit harsh. I didn't realise how angry you were going to be. And but the night before we were filming, I remember we were getting called, so it was the daytime, so I'm just laid in my bed in the room, thinking, shit, I'm going to do this on TV. What if I look up? What if I come across the portrayal as the right prick? And I remember ringing my missus going, I don't know if I can do it.
No way.
I swear. And I was going, I don't know, I might just tell him I can't do it and just fly home. I might give him some money back. But then as soon as you get on set, I saw set, and it was so authentic, as you've been on set.
Yeah.
I find it amazing that you forget after a while you're on set. The camera's hidden. There's no one keep coming in and going, right guys, cut there.
No. There's no one wandering around with a fucking camera in their hands, really.
You obviously see, you've seen Sam, the floor manager, who's a legend. He just wanders about every now and again, like moving stuff about, and then that's it. They set your food up and then they're just gone. I found that really good. I thought, I quite like this, and it was really professionally ran. And then as soon as the exercise starts, interrogation, they leave it to us, and not the umpire you don't see. They leave it to him. He runs it, and the DS, they come in and watch what we're doing.
Do you know the other team member? Well, I'm not going to ask you to tell us who anybody is, but are these other people with the military? Are they all from the same sort of background? Or
we all have to do the same training, so we've all done the interrogation job. The umpire, you don't see his face because he still does some military stuff, so he stays out of the way. But we've all done the same training, we've all got the same military background. We've all come from different streams of the military, but we're all trained in that common interrogation. But yeah, they all come from, it's a bizarre little thread of, and it's quite that many of us, as you can imagine. You don't need to know about.
Are you given freedom to? Because I say when I speak to obviously Chris and Rudy and Jason, they say we're allowed to kind of do whatever we like, and we all bring our own little thing because of all our different careers. Obviously, Rudy's done a weird different stuff over in America. Is it the same with you guys? Are you like, what bits do we want to include? How do we want to play it?
So we'll package. We'll go through the interrogation, as you can imagine. So we'll get each individual student, as you say. So we just see numbers and pictures on a board. And they'll go, right, this person, we get no real background on the individual. we'll have to fathom it out ourselves like you would do in real captivity. And then we'll tailor it. So we'll do sort of a pretty much processing, which gives us a good idea of what they're like. And then each individual student, each individual recruit basically has a tailored package for them. And then we bring them all together. So it won't be, right, generically, they're going to get shouted at, they're going to get shouted at. If you think someone's struggling, because again, it's a TV program at the end of the day. And you've got to really be careful because it's very realistic, especially you've had the privilege of going on it and seeing how realistic it is. And the further you get into it, the more degraded you are, the more lack of sleep. Your diet is shit.
Oh, and yeah, Vietnam especially, it was one of those where like, and Billy said it better than anyone, is like, you can't survive long term in those environments. You're constantly sweating, you're losing salts, you're losing food. Your body will just rot slowly over time the longer you're there.
Yeah, it does. It does. The jungle is the hardest place to operate. And that's why if you can soldier in the jungle, you can soldier anywhere because your abdomen has to be on the ball. And if you don't sort your feet out, you don't dry your feet out, you don't have clean socks, fresh socks, you don't towel your feet will just rot, they eat themselves.
Yeah, one of them had that trench foot, it just opened up like a fish in the middle.
It's awful.
Splayed open.
And then you've just got a massive open wound that you've got to try and deal with there. And then you're done.
Yeah.
Once that opens up, you're done.
Yeah, that was Chris. He
was and then when you're on set, they don't really see the production. They'll sort of go, right, could we maybe have group interrogation here? But they'll never tell you what to do. It's never scripted. They'll never say, can you push them on this or can you push them on that? It's never like that. And I really like the fact that we just run it ourselves. They trust us. Yeah, they trust us enough. And I think if we weren't getting what they wanted, they'd maybe go, can we maybe push them a bit on this? But they'll never sort of interject unless they think, shit, we're getting at the end. We haven't got what we need for this program. But that's very rare because usually we try and hit it.
I think that in my enormously limited experience of anything, it's like that's very rare now because I think people historically are used to just micromanaging things like that. They've got so much money invested in it. It's a big punt. Do you know what I mean? But even on a micro level, you see this on services, and I don't know if you had it in the military at all, but like people try and micromanage cultures and behavior and stuff like that, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. Because you need to let the thing naturally just kind of happen, you know. There's a
and then it looks forced. It doesn't look real. If you try and if you try and script everything, it just looks a bit shit. It's all forced and false, and you think, when did that? That's never going to happen. And
well, I think of it a micro example where podcasting is a great thing because I always say like that's why people don't like the news or the interview style doesn't work anymore because people just want to be part of a natural conversation. They're like you can't fake being. I couldn't fake scripting a conversation with Ian because it just wouldn't fucking work.
No.
You know, it's like and he just stop now and now talk about this. Well, fucking okay. I was
talking
about something there, but you just.
I found that like when we said about military, I got some shit of ex-military. I've ended up falling out with a couple of people.
Really?
Because of that, they've got a bit jealous. Some people said, because some people did like Ant, some people didn't like Ant, so I always stuck with Ant because of my weight. And obviously, it's a fucking job. It's not, it's TV. It's not the army. It's not real. It's fucking telly. Yeah. We're not giving away national secrets. Nothing like that.
No.
It's TV, and I've ended up having a few sort of choice arguments with people. And we've ended up falling out with some close friends because I've got a bit jealous over stuff. And you just think, because your career, when you've left the military, hasn't worked out how you wanted it to, why blame other people who haven't got other people that their career's done all right?
Well, I think a lot of this, and please help me connect the dots, and won't go away for too long, but a lot of it started with the Andy McNabb stuff way back when it was the Bravo 20 days when people were like, he was kind of the first one, I think, in my memory, that kind of people thought you're giving away fucking secrets here and, you're trying to enthrall people with these stories. You're exaggerating stuff. But the podcast is another fucking example of it. I'm like, people are really interested in the military. People are really interested in the emergency services. But we keep the door closed so much. We don't talk about our careers. We don't talk about our experiences. People want to fucking clap for the military. People want to appreciate what you do. And they're interested in it. That's why shows like this are so interesting. That's why some podcasts are interesting. Because
people want to hear about Dilks' career. They're fascinated by it. And this gives people, it's not the fucking same. We're not saying this is exactly what it was like to be in Vietnam and, get captured. That's not what, no one's saying. And people that romanticize that and go, oh, it was no one fucking said it was like that. This is a fucking pretend fucking thing.
I still get asked in the pub to go, so, when people on SAS, you're like, yeah, and they go, if they pass, do they go straight into the SAS? I'm like, are you fucking joking? I said, so after doing a 2-week course, they're going to now go into the SAS. They've used a weapon once. They've read a map.
Not even that, really.
And I said,
I remember people won't see that bit. Where you get like a 3-minute fam session with Rudy and Chris did a fam session of how to move through the fucking jungle with her. And I was just like, someone was like, probably taking it really seriously. And I was listening and taking it seriously, but I was like, guys, we're basically going to walk through and get fucking shot by these lot. That's basically what's going to fucking. We have not got a fucking hope in hell. If we make it further than 10 feet, it's because they want us to make it further than 10 feet. It's not because we're good at anything. All right, just fucking take it. I always said to them, we're walking, talking props. That's what we are, with the greatest respect. We're on a TV show.
And that's why I
do some cool, fun shit. But don't worry about how you're portrayed.
And I love the mixture. They get such a mix of people on the show. Because if everyone was just a beast, if they got like 20 Pete's, 20 male and female Pete's, big units, big meatheads, big female meatheads, bloke meatheads, it'd be fucking boring because everyone's the same. You get this random eclectic mix, and then that's where Ant sort of had a fallout with the show going, well, but it's about pushing them to their extremes. Yes, it doesn't matter about their exterior, how they look, and the physical fitness, because you don't have to push them still physically hard, because that would just be fucking boring. If you got 20 fundamentally boring people on a show, even it doesn't matter how hard you push them, they're still going to be boring people. The characters and the backstory is part of that show as well. Be it celebrity or civilian.
I always said when I came back, because a few people said, "Oh, we didn't see you much on the the episode you're in." I says, well, "You probably what? I think I was a mistake going on the show, because every one person I spoke to, with all the due respect, like someone was raped as a kid, or someone had a fucking affair with a giraffe and had a fucking baby with it. Everyone had some weird fucking story, and like every time I turned around, someone was breaking into tears or some shit like. There was me and a couple of others." That I remember abseiling down the fucking waterfall, and then Jason, Foxy flew over, and you get out, and he's like, "What do you do then?" And I'm like, "Oh, just firefighter." And he was like, "Well, that was fucking pointless then, wasn't it?" Because a lot of the stuff you do, like you say, if you just do what you're told to do, and I wasn't great at all. I don't even know if I'd have made it any further than I did if I wasn't injured. But it's like, if you just do what you're told to do, it doesn't make for very good television. Yeah. Because there's no fucking point. And I think there was probably a bit of a mistake for me in that. And there's a couple of others. Like you say, you don't get to SAS on the end of it. You don't. But Dan was a professional ballet dancer guy. Still stay in contact with him now. Fucking awesome guy. He's going through his marine training now. He's about to go away on his, because he's looking for another career after he finishes as a professional dancer.
Yeah. He was a machine, that kid.
He's a fucking great guy.
He's the one that he just couldn't go through the cover story, could he? He just, because he was that regimented.
He was that regimented.
I'm staying, and this is what I'm doing. You're like, fucking fair play.
Yeah, I know, but they were like, that's not going to work. And he was really not upset, but he was like, I was a bit gutted because I just didn't. I wasn't doing whatever they needed me to do.
He was a machine.
I know. But again, you look at people like that and people go, fucking dancer. Have you fucking any idea how disciplined you need to be in the fucking Russian ballet? He moved over there when he was like 12 or something. Had to learn through language.
You get beaten up. That's like torture. You get filled in on a daily basis, like hit with a stick. And your feet bound, and you have to have your ball, you have to have the joints of your hips like shaved so you can do the splits and stuff.
I know, mate.
It's quite harsh.
Fucking savages.
Here's one thing. I've got a question for you then, Pete. You know, like, obviously, Ant left the show under, we won't really talk about the circumstances, it's 50-50. I know a lot more than people do. But
I'm sure you know the real story.
Good or bad, do you know what I mean? But he came out in the press when Rudy replaced him. Yeah. And he was like, oh, Rudy's this, Rudy's that, Rudy's this. Did you ever see Rudy's response?
Yes, I saw the video where he was like, I would fuck you up. I would fuck. And I was like,
oh,
mate.
I've seen it on YouTube Shorts the other day, and it's there, and he goes, what? And Milton, he goes, just because you fucked your own career up and all this, just because you fucked your career up, nothing to do with me. He said, but if you come in front of me, I will fuck you up. I will fuck you up. Because I think, because Ant had come out of the press and slagged Rudy off quite a bit.
Yeah.
Fair play to Rudy.
Well, there was a hilarious. What was the meme that used to go around when you order Ant Middleton from Wix.com or some shit? You get Rudy Ray. It was some bullshit like that, wasn't it? It was like shit version of Ant Middleton. Or
we were
something,
laughing on set, and I tell you what, Rudy's a hard bastard, right? He's got this stick because he does a lot of martial arts. He got this stick, like. You know what? Remember Darth Maul on one of the Star Wars films? He does that with a double lightsaber thing. Rudy got this stick and went, "Go on then, Rudy." And he went, like, warmed up, and then just went, right. And you were like, "Fuck." So I said to Billy, "What do you reckon? Who'd win out of him and Ant?" I said, "I reckon I know." And he went, "He'd fucking kill Ant." He went, "Look at the fucking state of him." And Rudy's shredded, and he's in his 50s, and he's in great shape.
I think the problem Rudy did is he, whether consciously or not consciously, he did try to step into Ant's footsteps when he didn't need to.
No.
Because by himself, he's a fucking impressive human being.
Yeah.
But I think he had a fucking... So we've had him on the show, and again, that may not have been the true story, but I spoke to him off camera and off podcasts and stuff. Really cool guy. I think he had a fucking horrible childhood. And I think the reason he's constantly pushing himself is because there's an aspect of him that feels like he needs to impress people, or he needs to be a thing. And he's fucking amazing just as he is. Martial artist, fighter, physical specimen. Whereas Ant's got the cool factor. Ant is really cool. I think people like him. He's a funny guy. He's got great banter. He's a handsome motherfucker. So I think he doesn't have to be as much of a savage as Rudy, whereas Rudy's a savage and a really fit, strong guy. But he's also, I think he has to try. And he is really cool. I like him a lot. But he's had to try to be cool. And he didn't need to. But you're right. I think if you put them in front of each other, I think Rudy would fucking strip him to shreds.
Hands down, bless him.
Yeah. It's a weird one. It's just horses for courses. But no, I really love Rudy. And again, he'll be one of those that's fit until because he's fully into fucking stem cell treatment. And he said to me after he came back from Vietnam, because he runs his body into the ground and trains and fucks himself up, he goes and has the IVs, the stem cells, fair fucking play to him. People that are like, oh, what? He's not in the fucking Olympics. No. He's not going to get drug tested on something. If he wants to go and, I'm not saying he's riddling himself with steroids, but if he wants to go and get his body fixed, fucking fair play. He's going to be running around like a savage into his 80s. But then look at the other side of the spectrum, like Billy. I don't think Billy does any... he just lives a normal life like a guy, but he's still a fucking really fit guy.
Yeah.
But he's living in a different way. But he's done some cool shit. Him and his wife do some pretty cool shit together as well.
Yeah, the charity stuff that Billy does is amazing. It's commendable. The stuff he does in Haiti and that, and how he met his missus and how the charity's evolved from that. It's cool, proper cool.
But they lean into that fully. Like, what's stopped you? Not stopped you, but like, and Chris, we echo back to Chris again. So Chris, he's seen that side of it and he's gone, I just don't want to put myself all over social media. It's just not for me. Just not that it's crap or shit or self-aggrandizing, but it's just not his thing. No. He's just not up for it. And you seem to be, you want to jump in the pool and play about, and then you're happy to jump back out and live.
When we was out in that's why I don't really put much of my family on social media. We was out in New Zealand filming the American one for Fox, and it was a couple of the senior editors. We really think you should maybe think about going on social media. It's good for your footprint. It's good for this show for us, sort of thing. I was like, so you're telling me I need to want it a little bit Dilksy,
yeah. So,
and it's bizarre. And then it's that, like, dipping your toe into that social media celeb background. I'm not a celeb by any means. I go on TV 2 or 3 times a year. But it's bizarre because I had Jojo Siwa messaging me the other day. He's got 11 million followers, and she's like, you're massive in America. Just messaging me like we're mates. And I was talking to Martin Ford yesterday, just on my Instagram, and he's got 4 million followers, and he makes me and you together look small. He is like 6'8".
He's a fucking beast, isn't
he? He is a machine. And we were just talking about mindset, just a random conversation about mindset and the blame culture. They want to blame everyone else. And it's just bizarre that you think, why am I just chatting to this bloke who's famous? And obviously, I chat to Chris and Billy and their mates, but there's random celebs following me now, and it's all bizarre.
Because, with the greatest of respect, I think, and I've only met Martin once, seems like a really cool guy. but I think they're trying really hard to embody something that you've actually been and done. And Billy's a good example. So Billy has actually been and done it.
Yeah.
And he's chosen to lean into it, which is great. But so many of the people out there are pretending to portray a thing, and they've built a wonderful profile. And we're not throwing stones, and I know it's hard to say that because it sounds like I'm throwing stones. But he's probably talking to somebody like you because he's like, well, just kind of tell me, how do you do it, Dilksy? And what was it actually like? Because I'm trying to inspire people. I'm trying to run a big, I think he has a fitness training program now. He's been marketing it for a while. Great. But they are trying to paint a picture, and he's in films and stuff, of something they've never actually been, which is fine. And like, people take the piss out of Dwayne Johnson. Like, he's never been any of those things. He was a high-level football, American football player for a period of time, but they've never really done the thing. They've never been in the military. They've never been in the emergency services. They've never seen somebody die or whatever. Not that you should do or shouldn't do, but it does give you a different insight into life. So I think the people that should do it the most are interested the least, and you're probably an example of that. Yeah, you play around in it, but you'd be a great fucking speaker. You could really, but you'd have to want to put yourself out there, which is the hard bit.
A friend of my wife's got me, there's this thing called challenge. I put some of it on social media. It's for like deprived and naughty kids and underprivileged kids, and the police run it for Humberside. And then they basically do a patrol through the night of around about 17 to 20 miles, and it takes them all night really to do these different stands, and they'll get to another fire service run, and it'll be like recovering someone from a car. The army will run a stand, the paramedics run a stand, the police run a stand, and they just navigate through the night. And then I got asked to do the guest speaking, motivational talk, and I tell you what, it was one of the best things I think I've done. You know, giving something back, talking to all these kids. Some of them have never left the town centres. Some of them have had the worst upbringings you can imagine. Parents have left them off. Parents are drug addicts. They've had nothing, no support. And then I talked about upbringing as a kid, starting my career, fire service, and then TV. Put a load of pictures on, different like cool pictures. And I said at the end, does anyone want to ask questions? About 200. No one. So I was like, fair play. But I said, I want to be here for about 20 minutes after with my missus. If you want to come and ask questions. And it was humbling. I had a queue of people wanting to ask how I joined the army, how I got out of the gangs in the estates, how I did this, how I did that. And I felt it was just, even if one kid did something to change his life for the better, out of all them people, I've made a difference. So I felt it was amazing. It really.
I think there's something there. And I know a lot of them are doing their own thing now. I know Jason's got a stage show, Billy does a stage show. They all do a fucking stage show, which is great. But I wonder if like there's a hybrid version of that. I mean, like because I think you could all do something together. Now I don't know if there's enough juice in the squeeze, and for people at that level, they're like, oh, it needs to pay money. And if you were to put on a theatre show, because you haven't got a massive social media profile, even though people love you and I think they would love to listen to you, it's like, would they know about it? Would they travel to it? Blah blah blah. And if you only had fucking 50 people turn up, you might feel like a twat. Other people might say you're a twat, whatever. But I think it's so important. This is why, like, again, this is why I do the podcast, because there's so many people in the fire service and the police service. They'll never write a book. Then you know, there's probably loads of people with far better careers than Ant, even though Ant's had an amazing career. But they'll never write a book because they won't put the time in, or they won't make an audio book. But they've still got amazing careers, and that's why I enjoy speaking to them, because I'm like, because you might never write a book. Are you writing a book? Would you consider writing a book? Because it'd be fucking awesome.
I definitely need a ghostwriter because my spelling's fucking atrocious. So.
That's mate, why do you think I'm fucking doing a podcast? I can't string a sentence together.
Who's got this book? Who's got this book? There'll be like loads of colour pictures and stuff, like crayon drawings.
But and I know you can't speak about some of your stuff, but when could you? And I'm not asking you to go into it now because I want to be respectful of your time. We've been talking for like 2.5 hours. But it's like, wouldn't it be so sad for you to never have told them stories? Because it's cool shit, but it's hard to tell the story without sounding like you're blowing your own trumpet, isn't it?
I know, and I don't want to be that person that, look at me and I've done this and we do that. And I've done some mega cool stuff, and you think, I have to pinch myself sometimes and going, I actually did that. And even like the TV
but if
stuff,
you never tell anyone, they're never going to know. And then like your stepkids or your missus, or you'll be dead one day. And your mates will tell those stories a little bit. Oh, I used to work with this guy, Dilksy, fucking legend. We did this, we did that. We're all right. We're in this situation. And it'll be but they'll fuck it up a little bit because they'll have forgotten half of it and whatever. So I just feel like for the people that do go on and do these stage shows, as much as people take the piss out of them, it's like,
do you want me to tell you a cool military story that I can tell you? Because no one really got
Brother, not for podcasty salaciousness. We can always edit it out. Right? I'm interested in it.
I'll tell you a good one, and it's good but quite funny. So I got attached to Pathfinders when I was in Kosovo because they needed like engineer support, so I could blow stuff up basically. So they needed this kid. So I was like, I'll go. So it's cool as fuck. We could we're going to fast rope into this OP, that observation post. We're going to watch this different sector because the Germans were still getting fucked about by the Serbians. They were still having firefights, but they were lying saying they weren't. So we went to spy on them basically. So we cool as fuck, fast roped in, inserted, built this OP. We were watching them, writing a little patrol log. And then because I was a young fucking basically stroker, because you're on Death Stag. So they put me on from like fucking 2 till 4 in the morning, which is the shittest time. So I'm sat there monitoring comms, watching through my fight. And so I had my like weapon, and then I had a pistol as well. So I had my secondary. So you've always got your pistol next to you. I was like, weapons just on the side. I could hear this. So I had these bushes moving. I was like, so you like hearing, your heightened senses, aren't they? So I was like, fucking hell's that? So my pistol was always made ready anyway. So I was like, so I got my thermal imaging. So I'm like looking, I can see like 5 of my patrol members laid there. It's not them. Things getting close. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, right, slow your breathing down, don't sit. You might have to do an impulsive shot, like instinctive shooting. So I've got my pistol there. I'm like, this could be it. It's there. It's on top of me. I'm like, what the fuck? It's here and I can't see it. Next thing, I felt something hit my fucking leg. I've looked down and there's a fucking massive tortoise. Right, I nearly shot a tortoise. Right, imagine that. It ricocheted off and probably shot me or one of the lads. It was fucking massive, right? And they're wild in Kosovo, these tortoises. And it must have weighed about 4 stones. So I was like, the lads ain't going to believe me. So I tied it up with some rope. And then I had the tortoise with me. So when the lad took over from me in the morning, he said, anything to report? And I said, I nearly fucking shot a tortoise, John. And he went, what the fuck? And we had this massive tortoise and we kept it as a pet for about the week I was in this OP. We kept the tortoise, then we freed him. We let him go. I can tell you stuff like that. It's not classified if you kill a tortoise.
Why did you tie it up? Why did you keep it?
Because no one would fucking believe me. The fact that I nearly shot a tortoise. Tortoises don't move very fast. They were like, we're not going to believe him. If I say, you won't believe what happened, lads, and he shot a tortoise. They're like, fuck off, Dilksy. Because you're not used to seeing...
image in my head of you fucking jiu-jitsu in this fucking being like the slowest grapple ever, trying to restrain a fucking tortoise.
I tied him up and tied him to like the tree, and I just sat talking to him for a bit. I was like, what do you reckon's going on over there? He was fucking looking at me like, fuck off. And then we fed him some biscuits. He liked biscuits that we had.
The easiest prisoner to capture. Fucking tortoise.
Do you want to say hello to me? What missus? She's just in the background there. Look.
Hi, you're right.
Hello, my love. Sorry I'm taking up so much of his time. He's been singing your praises
going to work now.
about your career and everything like that. Says you're keeping him in shape.
Yeah, you will keep him. She does look after me. She just keeps me sane.
She's a good egg. Well, behind every man, there's a strong woman keeping him in shape. That's what I say, isn't it? Mate, I want to be so respectful of your time. I probably need to go see my family at some point in time, but I've absolutely fucking loved chatting with you today, mate. I feel like I could chat with you for another 4 hours. Yeah. I'd love to catch him in person and maybe do a follow-up in future, but I think there is genuinely blowing smoke up your ass. There's so much of a awesome story to be told there, and I know it's a heavy lift to do a fucking book or whatever, but I think the talks that you're doing to kids and stuff, because so much of our conversation today has been about, the social degradation and people struggling and youth not finding a way. They always say you got to see it to be it, and as corny as that sounds, people like yourself that have got an authentic story, because I think the reason a lot of people in community clubs reach out to people like you is because they're like, I want to inspire the boys that come to the sessions, or I want to inspire the kids, but I've not got a story to tell because I've not been in the emergency services, I've not been in the military, I've not been in a thing. There is an aspect where people need to get over themselves with the greatest of respect to go, all right, I'm going to feel like a twat, But also,
No.
the people that take the
That's what I
piss,
mean.
it's not for them. Do you know what I mean? Like the people that you used to work with, they will go, fucking, I was fucking Dilksy doing a fucking talk to a bunch of kids. I bet he told them a load of bollocks that wasn't true. It's not for them. It doesn't fucking matter. And usually it's because they haven't got the balls to go, you know what, I'm going to feel like a twat, but it's not for me. It's for the benefit of someone else.
I like to try and do it to people with no direction. Some people who are struggling.
Yeah, man.
I mean, even if just one of my stories or something I can give back to someone to push them in the right direction, just to G them up or give them a little bit. I've done some stuff in the fire service, and it was for the Prince's Trust. Yeah, it was for the Prince's Trust. It was in lockdown where people were struggling, and we've got an education team in our fire service, and they just said, "Would you like to go on and do a talk to these kids?" And one lad, it was a fucking horrible story, but he'd been in care all his life, and he'd self-harmed massively. He was massively into self-harming. And he said, "Look, when can I join the military?" I said, "Right, I'll do some digging for you." And we end up chatting. I said, "If you're free from, you've not been self-harming for 6 months, you're getting on your fitness, you end up joining the army." And you think, I've changed that kid's life. Not 100%. Just me, because I haven't gone, "Oh, it was me. Look at this, I've done that." But I've had an effect.
You might have just got him over the tip of that fucking hill.
He always wanted to join
that last push.
He loved the show. And him seeing me after show, he was like, "Fucking hell, that fella after show, he's talking to me. He's giving me advice." He absolutely loved it. And I got great feedback from that. And things like that, like monetary awards are great. Having nice things, like I bought a new car and I live in a nice house or whatever, it means fuck all if you're not happy. What's the point of having all nice stuff if fundamentally you don't like what you see in the mirror, you don't like what you're doing? It's a load of bollocks. They're just nice to have. You've got to have the fundamentals in place of happiness before you can build on anything else.
Mate, 100%. I get that so much. We get loads of little emails or little messages. We probably get 30 or 40 a week from someone that's joined the police or joined the fire service usually because they've heard a guest, they've heard you, they've heard someone else. That people will hear you and go, "Oh, you know what, I'm about a year coming out of the military. You know what, I heard Dilksy on the show, ABC, XYZ. I thought about this." And that's the shit where I'm like, fucking hell. Because it's just numbers, you know. We say 500,000 listeners or whatever. I don't know who the fuck they are. It's just numbers. It could be bollocks. I don't know what it is. I don't know who these people are. But then every now and again you get a message and you think, that's fucking awesome. And it echoes back to that conversation where you never know the people that you're making a difference for, as in you, as in all the great guests that we have on it. It's a real privilege to do it because and it's going to sound a bit savage, but someone said to me a little while ago, and it was one of my favourite things when I reflect on it, when people went, "Oh, you got on the podcast this week then, Pete?" You know, and people take the piss and it's a laugh and whatever. I'm like, "I'll speak to so-and-so and so-and-so," and they're like, "Oh, fucking hell." And people that are either don't like it or don't like me or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, but that's what you'll be remembered for, Pete, you know, putting yourself out there and talking bollocks on a podcast." I said, yeah, probably. Do you know what they remember you for? Fuck all.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because you've got such a fucking great story to tell, mate. You could help so many people, but you daren't get over yourself. You're too fucking cool for school. Yeah. Just talk about what you do. Because you could help that kid who is fucking lost, that self-harms all the time. And do you reckon I could do it, Dilksy? Well, of course you fucking could, mate. Just throw your hat in the ring. Have a crack. Fill out an application. You know, message me in 6 months. Let me know how you've gone. I'll be interested in hearing. And that, you know, you never know the people that you reach. But thank you so much for your time today, mate.
No, I've really appreciate it. And if you need to do it, if we want to do another one, if you think we've missed stuff,
I'd love to come and meet you properly in person. I know we were squeezed for time, and I forced you because you were, for people who aren't familiar, you were like, "Dude, let's do it in person. Come up and see me." We were squeezed for time on this one, but that's not because I didn't want to come and spend time there. I'd love to come up. And you can fucking embarrass me 7 ways Sunday, probably. And then I'll not tell anybody and fuck it off. But no, absolutely, brother. Send my love to the family, send my love to the missus.
Will do, mate.
And it's been great catching up with you, mate.
The Firefighters Podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests. And as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, towels, tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders. And please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening. And wherever you are in the world, please support your emergency services responders. And thank you for listening.